in some ways for the 4 Nathan Lyon here, Evan. He's starting to get to these race cars that have a little bit more damage and haven't had the sort of speed all night that the 4 of Nathan Lyon has had. So he's able to sort of plateau and at least stabilize here. I think it's unlikely we're going to see him drop much further than this, but don't say that to the 55 of Brian Schoenberg. He wants to pick up this spot as well.
In a battle for 6th position, also further closer to the front of the field is a fun one. The 17 of Michael Guest funded with Nick Ottinger. The Guest entry down low, actually trying to win out in this exchange, and he'll do so. So the 47 of Ottinger now the one that is struggling to maybe a little bit later on this long run. So just goes to show you, battles top to bottom. Any one of them could go sideways at any moment. I mean, had contact a couple of laps ago. The 17 and the 74 nearly got into each other. It's close quarters action at Bristol, and if I'm Kasey Kirwan, I've stabilized a little bit in the race lead. Novak had been getting, a 10th every few laps, and he's kind of slowed that rate down. Kirwan holding strong at 0.8 of a second. If I'm him, I want this one to go through to the end.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think even though Novak maybe has a slightly quicker car right now, I have a feeling that Kirwan has enough to sort of hold on. It's gone from a 10th every single lap to maybe a couple few hundredths every single lap, and I think the 14 of Kirwan is going to be more than happy with that. And of course, with all the lap traffic they're coming up on, as long as Kirwan can sort of pick them off cleanly and consistently, that's going to favor that 14 car. The 79 and Nichols Shelton tags the wall ahead of your race leaders, so hopefully maybe not issues here for the 14 of Kirwan. Is actually the 79 little loose up top, so the 14 maybe seeing a car that's struggling out the windshield and probably hoping and praying he can get by him cleanly and efficiently here.
This final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bed Liner. The tough comes easy in this regular season finale, and there's a big crash in front of the race leaders. Kasey Kirwan had to go to the apron to get around it, and Zach Novak is going to go to the race lead. The 6 car just drives right on by as 3 cars were up against the outside wall. The 14 of Kirwan went to the apron to avoid it. Zach Novak drove right by him and is now leading that lap 2:22.
Somehow we stay green through all of that. Not sure what caused the 20 there of Jake Nichols to get loose and cause that incident. But man, talk about a shakeup at the head of the field. You have to feel bad for the 14 of Kirwan, but he's going to start applying the pressure immediately. It's only 0.4 of a second back now, the gap between your top 2. So Kirwan has to go to work to try to bring that gap back down and maybe pick up the race lead again.
I don't think he's going to be able to get there. And now problems with the 88 car. That's the 88 slow of Brad Davies. Again, no caution. We stay green. There's more slow cars at a racetrack, but in none of these incidents has a car spun around. You saw the 88 spinning on the apron. The incident before that, Randy, those 3 cars that were into each other never actually went around. They were all up against the outside wall. I have to think Kirwan thought there was going to be a yellow, which is why he took it so easy, but I don't think he's going to be able to get Novak. Again, I still think Novak was a little bit better, and the gap is what was going to help the 14. Now he's going to have to chase the 6 car down with less than 25 laps to go. And how about Zach Novak? Let's talk again about the playoff picture coming into tonight. Zach Novak was 8th in the final playoff position, only 7 points ahead of Nick Ottinger. What a walk-off it would be for Novak to clinch his playoff spot with the win here tonight, ensuring that he can start racing for a championship when we go to Darlington next week. So then you'd have to think, well, what's happening with Jimmy Mullis and Nick Ottinger? Well, Ottinger's in 8th position, and Mullis, who was struggling, Randy, is up to P11. So Mullis in, Novak in, Ottinger out, I believe, is how they would run into the playoffs if it were to finish right now.
I think you're right with that, but I don't think this race is over. Kasey Kirwan with the lap traffic able to get within 0.3. The 6 and Novak really struggled getting around Nichols Shelton, and Shelton still making it difficult on the 14 of Kirwan as well. But Novak now struggling with the 83 of Adam Benefield. So the gap is coming down as we approach 20 laps to go. So even if the 6 maybe has a slight pace advantage, I think the 14 isn't quite out of it just yet. It stretches back out to about 0.4 of a second here in favor of the 6 and Novak. But the 14 of Kirwan still definitely there, as lap traffic still very much a part of this.
Well, you saw it this weekend in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Lead car trying to get by lapped cars late. and arguably could have been the difference maker. Zach Novak's got to do the same thing. A nice piece of driving there by Garrett Lowe to just get out of the way and let your race leaders go on by. Kasey, Kirwan within 2.5 car lengths with 18 laps to go at Bristol. The next lapped traffic they would catch would be Kasey Tucker, but honestly, they do have a significant buffer as the 14 now closes in. He'll look to the inside for the race lead. Novak gonna ring it around the outside wall, hanging on for now, but Kirwan so close he can taste it.
Oh, the 6 of Novak, he gets the outside wall in the center of the corner. He's going to be able to hold on, so maybe the pressure from the 14 of Kirwan going to pressure the 6 of Novak into a mistake. Right up against the wall again is the number 6 of Zach Novak, trying to get his way into the top 8, and the 14 of Kirwan is there. 16 laps to go next time across the stripe, and the 14 of Kirwan going to look to the inside, try to pressure the 6 of Novak when they have some clean track nearly side by side down the back straightaway, and the 6 of Novak holds on for now as Kasey Tucker is going to be thrust right into the middle of this lead battle in not long.
Novak, a 5-time winner in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Kasey Kirwan looking for win number 1 on the inside again, side by side for the race lead. He can get there in the center, but it is the run exit of the quarter for the car on the outside that is going to be what is so hard to complete the pass. Novak carries the speed off of 2 and off of 4 so much better, and they are starting to catch up to those lapped cars. There's only Kasey Tucker, then a little bit more gap, and then a whole school of cars as Novak's into the outside wall again, trying to ring it around the outside. Kirwan continuing to pound it on the inside. Now he'll follow him up top.
It's not always the fastest car at Bristol that wins the race. Sometimes it's who wants it more. Does maybe the chrome horn come into effect for the 14 of Kirwan? They've not touched yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see the 14 of Kirwan give him a shot. Here comes the lap traffic of Kasey Tucker. Going to start bottling up these top 2, and what is Kasey Tucker going to do dealing with these top 2 cars? 10 laps to go. Coming up in the next couple trips around the racetrack, Kasey Kirwan falls back into line as Tucker's going to run the top side of the racetrack, which is where everyone wants to be.
The 19 has been holding the outside. Now the 14 looks low. Is the 6 car going to get pinched on the outside line? He may have to deviate from his preferred line. Yes, he will. He'll go down to the inside. So Novak gets around the lap traffic and now puts the car in between he and Kirwan. Kirwan stays low. He's been down here for the better part of the run. Also gets on by without incident, but there are lapped cars ahead. Smith, Duvall, just to name a few, and they're all running in the line that Zach Novak wants. He's so loose, the 6 car, giving it everything he has. That time by, it was just 8 more laps to go at Bristol, and Kirwan continues to knock on the door. Does he resort to using the bumper as again he peaks low?
14 of Kirwan may have to move him here as they close in on the lap traffic of Eric J. Smith, and of course you have Dylan Duvall not far ahead of him as well, so it's going to quickly stack up here in the fight for the checkered flag. The 14 of Kirwan to the bottom, the 6 of Novak into the wall again as they come off the corner, and look at the run for Novak. Lap traffic going to get out of the way. First one is going to be, I believe that was Eric J. Smith, who dives out of the way. Is Dylan Duvall going to be as kind to these top 2 as in towards 3 and 4? The 14 of Kirwan to the bottom. Novak checked up behind the lap traffic as we're coming to 5 laps to go, but Kirwan just can't quite get the run off the corner. Can he get the car to rotate off the bottom and pick up the run? The 14 of Kirwan has the lead, coming to 4 to go.
By half a car length, it's Kasey Kirwan on the inside line. 4 laps to go this time, and he's got him. Kasey Kirwan to the race lead late at Bristol Motor Speedway. The 6 of Novak wanting to stay on the outside, struggled to pass Dylan Duvall, who held his ground, and now it's the 6 car trying to attack again. He'll chase the bumper, the 14, 3 more laps around.
14 of Kirwan opens up a gap. The 6 of Novak has made a couple mistakes over this run, and he's lost 6 or 7 or so car lengths. Little contact behind. It'll be 2 laps to go. 1 mile of racing. We saw the 14 of Kasey Kirwan come so close and be so emotional, running second at Pocono, and with 3/4 of a mile to go and some lap traffic ahead of him. He's getting ready to see the white flag and pick up his first career win in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series at Bristol.
And he's opened the gap up. Zach Novak falls to half a second behind. As long as the cars in front keep it clean, he is going to be good to the end of this one. Kasey Kirwan, for the first time in his eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series career, is a winner, capturing tonight the Bristol Night Race. What a win for the 14 car.
It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Drivers, 4 races. These are the moments that define champions. Zach Novak, final time to the start-finish line, takes the checkered flag and wins. Who will reach the peak? The battle begins now. Let's go playoff racing! $100,000 has reached the start of the 2019 playoffs, where tonight for the virtual Darlington Raceway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the first race of the round of 8 in this 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. So happy you're with us, as always, on RaceBot TV, the iRacing Esports Network. Myself, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Randy Janet, along with our director, Cisco Scaramuza. Tim, what a way to close it all out. If you were with us just a week ago, a long-awaited return to Bristol, set our 8-car grid. That'll be our finally set to go playoff racing as we get set to drop the green flag for round number 15.
And an exciting way to do it. We have 3 races leading into Homestead at 3 unique and iconic venues in Darlington, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then we go to the Charlotte Roval. 3 unique racetracks. It's going to really test these drivers to punch their ticket into the Homestead Miami Speedway. I can't wait for it. Tonight is going to be fun. You've got some, you got a front row up in front that's in the playoffs and looking to take away a victory and try to punch their ticket early into Homestead.
And of course, let's talk about what the playoff picture is exactly, Randy, coming into this evening, because we made a big point all season long about pressing the fact that winning and you're in is not a thing over the course of our 14-race season, so it was all up to points. Those wins, though, did not go unrewarded. 3 bonus points for each trip to victory lane, which means as we come into this round of 8 opener, Ryan Luza and Zach Novak are actually at the top of the pile, 2,009 points each, 2,006 for Keegan, Leahy, so on and so forth. Only Michael Conti and Blake Reynolds to make it in without a win. They're down at that reset benchmark of 2,000, but if you win tonight at Darlington and you're one of those 8 drivers, you're going right to Homestead, so there's a lot on the line tonight.
Yeah, really there is, and especially here at a track like Darlington, such a difficult track to race at, and we typically see some new names crop to the top of the timing boards, and especially in the race trim as well. I think we'll see some new names up near the head of the field. Would not be surprised if we see one of those non-playoff contenders pick up a win. We've seen a lot of drivers be very, very competitive at the head of the field, so it's the big thing to talk about going with only 3 races before we get to that final playoff round at Homestead. We're at least guaranteed that one of these guys are not going to be able to make it to Homestead based on a win. They're going to have to do it on points, but I think things are way more interesting if we can make it 2 or maybe even 3 guys that have to point their way in rather than doing so with wins.
It'll be fun to see how that plays out, Tim. And of course, Darlington, the first race on this playoff schedule, is a very tricky track to come to. Only one driver in our playoff grid has won here in the past at Darlington, and it in fact was just a year ago for Michael Conti. He used that to punch his ticket in to the Homestead finale. Aside from him, you're looking at a calendar that has seen Darlington on the schedule every single year since 2010. Race winners to the likes of Landon Harrison, Brad Wright, Josh Berry, if you want to look back a couple of years. But non-playoff drivers, only one driver has found a victory lane here multiple times. That's Ray Alfalla 3 times, 2012, 2014, and 2017. He's not fighting for a championship, which is shocking. He's going to be a driver just trying to stay the top 20, but Michael Conti seems primed to take advantage of a good racetrack.
But 3 previous champions of this series have won here before. Add Tyler Hudson's name to that list as well. They've all won here before, and either have gone on to win championships in that year or have gone on to previously win championships in this series. So this is a very key racetrack. You really have to get up on the wheel, and obviously Michael Conti has a good starting position here tonight. So he's going to try to wheel that JRM number 8 to the continue to be at the front of the field and go to victory lane in this one this evening, but he's going to have a tall order because he's got 39 others that want to get to victory lane. 8 of them want to punch their ticket into Homestead. The others trying to get into the top 20 for this series for next year. And of course, it's a win at Darlington. You want to get up on the wheel for it.
Well, it's Darlington as well, so we're having a lot of fun with it. It's retro night in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series, so you're going to see a lot of cars with some throwback paint schemes. We'll do our best to point those out as the night goes on. If you're also keeping a look at the cars, Randy, trying to differentiate between our 8 playoff drivers and those who are not competing, and you can't get those 8 names drilled into your head right off of the bat, don't worry. All of our playoff drivers will have that PEAK blue on their spoiler, the splitter, and the windshield banners. That's going to be a way to differentiate them from everybody else in the field who was just going to have those black markings on the cars. I have a feeling you're going to get really well acquainted with all of the playoff drivers soon. 8 drivers right now have a shot at the championship. Over the next 3 weeks, we will whittle that down to 4 before we start talking about Homestead and that $40,000 championship prize to the winner.
And in addition as well to the all those blue bits on the race cars, you're also going to notice on our overlays when we get into the race, all of our playoff drivers will have the blue highlights next to their name. The entire rest of the field will be black, which is unusual, of course, compared to everything else. As we take a look at Bobby Zilinski in the warm-up, wheeling down the racetrack with Keegan, Leahy in towards 3 and 4, a couple of championship rivals, and a couple of drivers that are, of course, looking their way to make it in towards Homestead. Both of them qualifying very well here today also. But it's going to be a fun night of racing, Evan, and all these guys, so many competitive drivers and a lot of actually different names really qualified well here as we're about 90 seconds from getting this thing going.
And super competitive racetrack, you mentioned. I think that's going to be a big thing tonight. 183
and a new
laps
package.
on the board.
First time we've seen
new
this package here.
Right. So all these changes, of course, we've seen drivers try to figure out how this package has worked all season long. We throw them a new test. Again, Darlington, kind of a racetrack at its own classification. Tim, it's not one of those 1.5 milers, a little bit under that. Very unique, of course, 1 and 2. A much wider arc to the corner than what you see in 3 to 4, where things tighten up, and drivers will certainly have to get out of the throttle more at that end of the racetrack than they will down in turns 1 and 2. Also, something fun to note is we have seen 2 first-time winners in this series the last 2 weeks, with Garrett Lowe at Michigan and a Kasey Kirwan just 1 week ago at Bristol. So a fun streak of drivers adding their names to the list of series winners. Perhaps an opportunity to see another new name come into the picture tonight if one of our playoff drivers aren't going to take over.
You look back at 2011 and Brad Wright, that name really stands out to me as a driver that went to victory lane and really marked himself into the series at that time. So keep your eye on some of those drivers that could very well get their first win here. But as you mentioned, you really have to get up on the wheel here. This is round number 15. These drivers know who they're racing with. They know who they're racing around. They have that notebook. So it should be fairly interesting as we work through the 183 laps here this evening. Who does what, who moves where, and who ends up in victory lane at the end of the night.
Qualifying, as always, takes place on race night about a quarter before the top of the hour here. So drivers right now that you're seeing on the racetrack are just finishing up a 25-minute final practice session, get everything tested and tuned away, and to get set to go racing for what is the 15th race of the season. But of course, the critical playoff opener for the first time as we get ever so closer to crowning a 2019 champion. Let's go trackside and take a look at tonight's race spot starting grid, and it is that defending race winner and championship hopeful Michael Conti, who will start on a pole position tonight, and he will be joined by the number 62 car, Keegan Leahy, right there as well, rolling from second position. Back on row 2, Taylor Hurst starts third tonight. Bobby Zilinski gets fourth in the qualifying session, and a big bump for the 79. That's Nichols Shelton, who rounds out your top 5.
And on the outside of that row, a driver who knows this racetrack like the back of his hand, Ray Alfalla in the 21 rolls off in 6. Chris Shearer and Chris Overland. The next row, Benjamin Nelson in the 33. Malik Ray in the Sunoco number 90 complete your top 10.
Corey Vincent is going to roll off 11th with Jarl T into his outside on road number 6. Logan Clampett and Dylan Duvall on road number 7 with Ashton Crowder rounding out your top 15.
16th is Phil Diaz, so he'll be on the outside of Crowder back there on row 8. Michael Guerrilla starting 17th. Matt Busa rolling from 18th position. Back on row 10, you'll find 19th starter Cade Cook and Kasey Tucker halfway home, P20.
Row number 11 sees Brad Davies and Blake Reynolds sharing the row. Jake Nichols and Nathan Lyon will line up in row number 12, and Zach Novak in the 6th on the inside of the next row, 25th.
Nick Ottinger next to that number 6 car in the 26th spot. Christian Challinor 27th. Cody Bias in 28th. Garrett Lowe 29th. And Brandon Hayes-Cattell rounding out your top 30.
Continue it on through everybody else. Adam Benefield, 31st. Ryan Lewis at 32nd. It's Jimmy Mullis, Brian Schoenberg, and Michael Guest through 35th. Eric Smith is 36th. Ryan Lowe, 37th. Kasey Kirwan will miss the green flag, so he'll start from pit road, but actually scored 38th for now. Logan Crest, 39th. And Timmy Hill in 40th position as a look top to bottom at your Race Spot TV starting grid. Tim, it is, of course, 1.366 miles around this joint. 25 degrees in 1 and 2. Tighter down, 23 degrees in 3 and 4. It's throwback night, but it is also the playoff opener.
It's the playoff opener. 2 drivers in the playoffs starting on the front row. You got a guy like Taylor Hurst trying to spoil the party. Bobby Zilinski on the outside. Ray Alfalla's looking for his first win of the season. Man, oh man, this is going to be exciting. Can't wait to see how this turns out here at Darlington.
Happy that you're with us, as always, on Race Spot TV and the iRacing Sports Network as we roll out of turn 4 and say, let's go playoff racing at Darlington. Green flag in the air through the gears for the first time. It is a good jump for pole sitter Michael Conti. He'll lead into turn 1. Successful defense is second for Leahy, P2. And a battle is on for third. Hurst trying to hang on the inside of Zalenski as we come down the back straightaway at a 62 car. Already a challenge for the race lead. He'll go to the inside, now down to turn 3.
They say passing is going to be difficult in the 62, and Keegan Leahy gets an opportunity. He takes an opening lap, slides up in front of the 8 of Michael Conti, who cuts it back down to the bottom. Won't get a run off of turn 4 this time. So the 62 and Keegan Leahy, we saw him lead early last week, and he'll lead the opening lap here at Darlington as well. It's Ray Alfalla right now, really the only car running the high line on entry. He's going to manage to get that single file and get in the popular line with everyone. It's now Bobby Zilinski from 4th. He has a run on 2nd on Michael Conti.
Playoff drivers occupied 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Leahy already a 2-time race winner this season out in front of that battle for 2nd. Zalenski making a move on the outside line, and the 8 car is not going to find any relief. The 74 of Hurst, he'll follow him through. So Michael Conti, who admittedly looked like he had a pretty good jump, Tim, now down 3 positions already. Hurst going to complete the pass, and I think Ray Alfalla cut him a break there. The 21 had a run, but let the 8 car in line, so Conti stops the bleeding for now.
Yeah, he was a control car on that start, but he fell back a couple of positions. Now finds that spot in the line, as you mentioned, back to position number 4, and now content to ride. You look at those drivers up in front, single file racing, trying to get some laps in. It's a long race here, 183 laps around this joint, and these guys are going to have to show a little patience, at least at the start of this one. And you look all the way back on that shot there, there's 10, 15. They're all the way single file right now, trying to log some laps here at Darlington.
Darlington's another racetrack. Obviously doesn't change as much of the fact that obviously the restarts, Randy, are where you want to make the moves early. But I mean, if you really don't have positioning, you're taking an awful gamble to throw it into the corner just with the way these cars like to push up to the hill. And as we get right up against that fence, that a margin for error is so slim, quarter entry could be a tricky thing to navigate here, trying to communicate with other cars if you're going to go for the pass or not. So I would expect this early on, again, into a 183 lap contest. Long way to go tonight in Darlington, that some drivers might take it a bit easier off of the get-go. And you know, we are single file, but a lot of these cars only separated by maybe a handful of car lengths between each other, 2 to 3 apiece. One small mistake, you get a car on top of you just like that.
I definitely agree. It's such a difficult racetrack that I think you're going to want to play nice with one another. We saw the same thing out at Bristol last time. I know a lot of people going into Bristol thought that track might be a little bit hectic, maybe even cause some problems, and drivers might really struggle, but that wasn't really the case. They were pretty nice to each other in the early goings, and because of that, we got a nice long green flag run. And the last couple of years, we've gotten long green flag runs early here at Darlington. They're watching the 6 and Novak get back in line behind the 88 of Brad Davies. And of course, this new package, you're running so different here compared to in the past. Chop a few hundred horsepower off the top, and suddenly turn 1, it goes from being a corner that you really send it on the throttle in towards turn 1 that are hard on the brakes. You're nearly flat out all the way through 1 and 2 with the lower downforce trim and the higher the lower horsepower and the higher downforce. Really a lot of grips in these cars as the number 33 works on the 90.
He's going to try to make a move here, so battle for position. Back at all of the chaos here, we get battles like this throughout the field, but Nelson trying to get all the way up and around Vincent. The Renegades Ford will fight back at the outside. We'll race side by side down the back straightaway and off into 3. This end of the racetrack, the outside line has been the better place because you're going to get way more out of the throttle, especially the deeper into a run we get compared to 1 and 2. And you can see just how much of a run Vincent got. Not only is he going to clear, but Logan to clamp it also. He'll get on through, so the number 99 machine passing Nelson, and that 33 car down 3 from the start of this race.
You saw a couple of side-by-side battles there near the mid portion of the field. I've been keeping my eye on the 53 of Ryan Lewis and the 46 of Jimmy Mullis. Your 2 playoff contenders started deep in this field, outside the top 30. You see Lewis finally working the inside. He rode in behind the 28 for a few laps. Now Jimmy Mullis going to try to follow him down to the inside and try to pick up a couple of spots. Garrett low in that 28 car. A little bit of a struggle from that playoff contender as well early in this one. Kind of missed it in qualifying. So you got a couple of drivers hanging out around the top 30 right now that obviously have playoff implications, championship on the line here. But Ryan Luza is definitely on the move. He's picked up a couple more positions and now moves to the inside of the 30 of Blake Reynolds and puts another playoff contender in behind him. So there's a few of these playoff contenders at the back of the field right now, Evan.
But I have to assume Luz is going to be able to keep this speed up. He was a top 10 car into practice, but of course started 32nd after qualifying. Right now he's trying to get around Kasey Tucker, and the 19 car awfully tight at turn 2. That's going to be a spot to watch tonight. But the one thing that really separates the point structure of this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series, Randy, compared to, say, the Monster Energy Cup series, is there are no playoff points to be collected over the course of the regular season. So Ryan Luz, no doubt, has been one of the best cars. Actually just ended up missing out at a regular season championship after missing his start last week at Bristol, but for all intent and purposes, he was the guy. Keep in mind, those 3 wins, all of that only netted him 9 bonus points. It's better than none, but that could all get erased if he can't figure this out. So he's sitting 23rd right now, a long way to go just to kind of break back even.
And the thing to remember is that Ryan Lewis, and most of those wins came in the early part of the season. I think in the early goings. Him and the team he runs with, they figured something out in the package. They had a lot of speed. They looked great on the long runs, and they were really the dominant team throughout the early goings. But over the last 6-7 races, that's really changed, and that 53 has not been the dominant 53 we've seen in the last couple of seasons, and that we saw last year for sure, and that we saw in the early phases of this year. I don't think the 53 of Ryan Luza is going to dominate this playoff structure the way a lot of people might expect, and I'll be honest, he's one I actually think may not even make it to Homestead.
We'll see how this plays out for him. Those 3 race wins came in the opening 5 weeks of the season at Las Vegas, Texas, and Richmond. So that team's certainly looking to get a little bit extra. And, of course, you do have to run it consistently because, Tim, you mentioned off at the top, at least one position going to be in based on points. If we were to have 3 different playoff drivers win all 3 races on this round, Darlington tonight, Indianapolis, and then the Charlotte Roval, there's going to be at least 1 point spot. But, I mean, the wins are worth so much more at this stage that this is certainly the time where either you want to have the racetracks on the calendar that you're good at, or it's the point where you want to get into a good rhythm.
And you look at those 3 racetracks, they're so different. Obviously, we went to Sonoma earlier in the season. We go to the Charlotte Roval. Bobby Zilinski is going to be one to watch when we go to that racetrack. So you want to try to get up on the wheel and try to do everything that you can to get a win, but also in the back of your mind, as you mentioned, Evan, try to think points and try to get at least that 4th place spot into that Homestead Miami Speedway and have a shot at winning that championship when all is said and done. There's Taylor Hurst on your screen running in position number 3 and trying to track down Bobby Zilinski. There's a driver that's been in this series, the JDR Graphics number 74, that continues to work hard every single week as an independent, and now running in the top 3, and he's got Michael Conti taking a peek to the inside. Caution's out in the speedway.
Early caution at lap number 16, and it is Brian Schoenberg on the back straightaway. There you see the Chill Blast Williams Esports Toyota. And we'll take a look at a Race Spot TV replay to see the cause of this one. You'll see a side-by-side battle between he and Eric J. Smith in the Jim Beaver Esports entry. Here's where it starts. The 51 goes to the inside. They're going to go side-by-side through the corner here, and Schoenberg just ran out of real estate. It's hard to tell if that 51 Randy forced him up or not, but, I mean, turn 2 is one of the tougher quarters on the racetrack, but he got into the wall. Both Logan Kress and Cattell had nowhere to get around him.
Maybe a little bit forcing that number 55 up the racetrack, but Schoenberg had damage on that race car already, and the nose especially was pretty caved in. I think maybe fighting a little bit of aero push because of that for the 55 is what really, partially caused that incident as well. So unfortunate there for Schoenberg. He's going to be down on pit road early getting repairs, but as expected, we have the whole field hitting pit road. 4 tires and fuel, I think, expected for all.
Keegan Leahy had just pulled to about 1.3 seconds in front of the rest of the field by the time the caution flag came out, so we can tell that the 62 was getting into a good rhythm and is going to be a good car to watch on the long runs tonight. But let's see if everybody can navigate pit service cleanly, and as they say that, too far. Leahy overshoots the pit stall, and he has to back it back up to complete, or really just to begin his service. Going to cost him at least a second or 2, and we'll see if he'll be able to maintain in the race off of the pit lane as he gets his 4 tires put on, and he's not going to be able to do it. 3 cars beat him off the pit road, and at the front of that pack, the number 79 of Nicholas Shelton. First car off, Conti second, Zalenski sneaks through to 3rd, and Leahy throws away the race lead and is the 4th car to leave pit road.
Definitely going to shake everything up here on this first restart of this event coming up as we're working lap number 18. That's 79 of Nick Shelton. We documented, had an up and down season so far. The best way to really turn it around and really end your season on a high note is to grab a win in these playoffs, even if you aren't involved, even if you don't have one of those blue spoilers or blue windshield banners on your car. So that Clint Boyer Racing car looking to do what his teammate did last week and go to victory lane, but you look at the 62, he's lost a lot of time on pit road. We'll see what kind of track position he can gain on this restart.
We're just double-checking a bit that trip down to the pit lane. Darlington's kind of a fun one. There's a big break into pit stalls about halfway down, and it's also quite the downhill slope down into 1, so you got to watch your speeds there, maybe more prone to going over. Shelton, again, the one who really made the impressive drive because he came down to the pit lane way back in line. He was the 6th car to come down pit road, and, I mean, really the only noticeable error was Leahy, who overshot the box, but that 79 was blistering fast and gains 5 spots to go straight to the race lead. Conti going to get another opportunity to be up in the front of this one. We saw Randy him drop back off of the get-go here. He'll be back on the outside of the front row, so we'll see how all of this plays into favor, but the top 10 who started this still pretty much holding strong. Only Logan DeClampin, who started 13th and runs 9th right now, has been able to go from outside the top 10 to win it, given we're only 19 laps in, so still very early on.
Yeah, that 99 car, Logan Clampett, of course, rocking the 2000 Jeff Burton colors. Love that paint scheme, and I think of all the throwbacks we have, certainly one of the best. But he's been looking good the last handful of races. Didn't have the sort of luck he needed out at Bristol. Was sort of out near the front early. Was potentially, I think, going to be a race leader at one point, and got into some incidents with some lap traffic, got some damage on that race car, and his night just kind of went from bad to worse from there, and unfortunately couldn't really rebound. He's definitely one of the drivers in this championship, one of the younger drivers with a ton of potential. We've seen so many new and young names come in, and last couple of years he was close to putting it all together last year and getting into the playoffs, wasn't quite able to do so, and missing out again this year. That 99, always a force to be reckoned with, and one of the stars of the future for this championship to keep an eye on.
So that race off of the pit lane that we watched is indeed going to be the running order. Nobody daring to stay out on that 15-16 lap run off for the get-go here. So everybody coming down for service will restart with 38 of the cars who started this race on the lead lap. All 40 are still in it. Only Timmy Hill and Brandon Cattell are down a lap, and a big up for Kasey Kirwan, who missed the grid in this race after being slated to roll off in 38th. He lost his lead lap because of that. Caution flying, going to get that back, so he's right back in this thing. Pace car added in. Let's see how early the number 79 wants to go. With the pace car diving down so early, you got a whole lot of time to make up your mind. He'll wait till they come off of the corner. Green flag back in the air, 20 laps down.
It's a great start for Shelton in the 79. Michael Conti's going to find his way to second, and Keegan Leahy going to hop to the outside, going to try to get to the outside of Conti. Conti going to slide right up there and maintain position number 2. Keep an eye on Bobby Zilinski as he goes to the inside, and Michael Conti flashes the nose to the inside of Shelton as they race down the back straightaway into 3.
I thought Conti might have been wanting to stay up on the outside, because remember on that first restart it was the inside that hurt him, and he can't make the pass on Shelton. And here we go again. Leahy going to go by on the outside. The 74 of Taylor Hurst joins the party. He'll pass as well. Conti went for the +1. Instead he lost 2 as he slides up in front of the 90 of Malik Gray, who's having a great night in that Sunoco Toyota, up 5 spots to run right now at a top 5 position.
Look at the 62 of Keegan Leahy already back up into that second position, and he pulled about a car length on your race leader, the 79 at Nicholas Shelton. They come off turn 4 in the 62. Not great through the exit, but just look at the run he can keep up down this front straightaway in towards 1 and 2 once again. And let's see, Keegan Leahy is going to set this run up, and this is where this G2 esports car has been so good. Watch the exit down the back straightaway. He's got the run. We saw the 8 of Conti get about that sort of overspeed, wasn't able to make it stick. The 62 knows that, and he's going to pull out of it and hold on to second rather than think about falling back into 4th or 5th, which is what we saw the 8 do.
Yeah, I think most racetracks, you have that kind of a run down the back straightaway. You go to make the move, but down into 3 and 4 at Darlington and barely having a nose inside. I think it was a smart call for Leahy to back off. He tucked right back up in line, though. Again, he can't get too patient with the 79 in front of him, because obviously that 74 Taylor Hurst is going to jump on him. You see Brian Soderberg's damaged machine limping on the inside line as he allows your race leaders to go on through. It took Leahy maybe 5-6 laps to really get into it. That's when he started to pull that gap with the rest of the field, which, as I mentioned, was over a second, only about 15 laps into the run. So we know he's very good when he's out in front in clean air. If Shelton can hold him off, though, for say that 5-6 lap period, is he going to be able to make the same amount of noise? He's about a car length off. In fact, Hurst closer to his bumper, maybe challenging for second before Leahy can go back for the race lead here, because Shelton doing a good job pulling more distance as time at turn 4.
Clean air at a premium. Shelton doing a great job up in front, but the battle is going to be for position number 2, or at least it appears to be for position number 2, as the 62 of Keegan Leahy holds off Taylor Hurst, Michael Conti, and the rest. And you look back there, we saw Zach Novak a couple of times try to peek to the inside and try to get a top 10 position on Corey Vincent, but for the most part, it's been single file here throughout your top 10 ever since the couple of laps after the restart. Look at the run that Taylor Hurst gets here in the middle of 3 and 4. Can't do anything with it. Flashes half the nose to the inside. Nothing doing there down the front straightaway, but the 62 of Keegan Leahy holding on to that second place position. Hurst wants it, though. He's going to find a place to put that run.
Yeah, so let's see if Taylor Hurst can make it work. He's right on the quarter panel, peeking out to the inside, and here's going to be the challenge. No, tucks back in line, but you can see the separation between the Clean Air really helping out the 79 car. Shelton now over a half a second probably this time through, ahead of this log jam for second on the back. Leahy, Hurst, Conti all stacked up with one another. Malik Gray not all that further back, so I mean, it's not like Keegan Leahy's way off, but certainly this goes to show you what we already knew. That is, clean air is such importance here. 74 can't get around the 62, and Leahy nowhere near as fast running second, even with a 7/10 of a second gap, but dirtier to Shelton than he was earlier.
Almost wonder if these guys behind Keegan, though, may have made some changes. Look at the 74 of Taylor Hurst. Eyes to the inside coming off before, but just can't quite get the run, and he's going to get back in line because we're starting to see the sort of gap for Keegan Leahy that he's going to sort of be getting a clean air effect in his own right. Nicholas Shelton, the second up the road, is not going to be affecting that 62 car as much as far back as Keegan currently sits out there on the racetrack. So if Keegan, the way he's going, if he keeps, if he's not able to maintain speed with the 79 and those cars behind him, I think there might be more than dirty air at play. As the 74, I still think looks racier than that 62 this time off of 4.
We'll see how patient he is going to be, and if that patient wears thin. Battle with Novak in the 6 car. He's been peeking to the inside of Shearer here for a couple of laps now, almost all the way through, and they'll keep this battle going down the back straightaway. The 27 car, Vincent, will stay to the inside, and Novak's going to try to make this pass stick. He gets there in the center of the corner, not willing to push up and slide job him, but this time it'll work, and that's not easy to do down in 3 and 4. So Novak continues his march. Started 25th. He's already up to position 8.
And it took him a couple of laps to get by Corey Vincent, but once he did, he was able to get by Vincent and Shearer, and as you just saw there, but now he's got a little ways to work up to his next position, which would be Ray Alfalla in the 21 car, about a second or so in between those two positions in 7th and 8th place, as Zach Novak trying to climb a little bit closer towards the front. In behind, you see Chris Overland trying to grab a couple of positions back. He was in the top 10 a couple of laps ago. He might lose one here to Jarl Tien, and here comes Logan Clampett as well. The 16, we saw him a couple of weeks ago, darn near won himself a race in this series, and now back after a week off, and he's doing fairly well in the top 10, hanging around, and clean race car so far for that 16.
He actually was running a lot better a little bit earlier on. He and Ray Alfalla had those 2 team cars for Wood Brothers back-to-back in 7th and 8th position, but he has started to slide back, and he finds himself in the traffic that you currently see him in as he's battling just to try to maintain positioning in 12th for the moment, but everybody top 10 behaving themselves for now. Nicholas Shelton, 1.3 seconds as your race leader. Up ahead of Keegan Leahy. That's him right there all on his own in the number 79 car. So he's enjoying the spoils of clean air. And well, you talked about that battle a little bit deeper in the pack there. Tim did, Randy. When you get stuck battling with somebody for a few laps, by the time you finally complete the pass, that's great. But that battle costs you so much time, and maybe that's what we're seeing here with this battle between Leahy and Hurst is now the 62 seems to have gotten his feet underneath him, and they are starting to string out a bit, but they spent so much time fighting each other with that 74 constantly going to the inside, trying to establish position, that the 79 car is completely checked out.
Yeah, it definitely seems like this lower horsepower package is making it a lot more difficult for these guys to pick up a run on one another and make a move. The straightaways aren't really long enough to feel the full effects of the slipstream. And, of course, Darlington, it's always been about a sort of groove and a half racetrack, isn't it? And if you're going to get up the inside, you're really going to have to send it. You're going to need to have a big pace advantage to make things stick along the bottom. Only a few drivers ever really able to make the speed down there along the bottom. The 74 Taylor Hurst not quite able to get it done. And I think we're starting to see that clean air come into effect for Keegan Leahy now that Nicholas Shelton has checked out the way he has, because look at that gap that's open between the 62 and the 74. It's out to about 0.2 of a second, actually pushing 0.3 of a second now, and for the bulk of this run they were absolutely on top of each other nose to tail. So I think right now that 62 is either finding a bit of speed or that 74 is starting to feel that dirty air effect and just starting to fall back.
Well, good to see if we can lock in and get a green flag run out of this one. Of course, you can see it just how close to the wall the 74 is running. Everybody's maybe half a foot out of that outside wall. And, when you look back, say, in 17th position, where Ryan Luza is still trying to make his way through the field, you don't have as much separation as you're seeing up front. Look at this. It's like a single file train on the inside at Daytona, except it's on the outside at Darlington. So when there's only a car length and a half right there, the 77 Crowder got into the wall in front of these cars. If you catch that fence a little bit too hard, you got this big line of cars lined up ready to get on you. If you're too close to the back of the car that gets into the fence, you could easily be into them, so you cannot really take any deep breaths. You got to be up on the wheel all night long with how close you got to push it to the edge to get around here at a good time.
You really have to anticipate what's going to go on in front of you, Evan. You see that car in front of you hit the wall, get that Darlington stripe. You have to make sure that you're ready for it and try to jump on it, anticipate, and pick up a couple of positions if you can. There's the 46 on your screen at Jimmy Mullis trying to get to the front of the field, one of our playoff contenders, trying to make something happen, but right now sitting in position number 19. Still a long ways to go, but there's that anticipation factor. You see them too wide at times in front of you, waiting for something to happen to make sure that you're not involved in something should an accident happen. So keep an eye on these guys like Jimmy Mullis at the back of the field and see what happens as he can work his way towards front, pick off those positions as he can, because Mullis was outside the top 30 on our first run, started in 33rd, now up to 19th. It could be 18th here, because here he goes on the inside of Griglia.
And there's two cars here. Luz is right there as well. So Luz has started 32nd. Mullis started 33rd. And if he could make the move to 15 here, as Aurelia came off the fence, they're a little bit awfully close, but Mullis does complete the pass. So these two cars started back-to-back in 32nd and 33rd. They run together in 17th and 18th. So it's Luz and Mullis versus the field as they continue to try to work their way through. Next couple of cars on deck would be the 33 of Benjamin Nelson and Ashton Crowder in line, and of course the further up the scoring pylon you get, the harder these passes are going to be to complete.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing, isn't it? You start getting towards the mid-pack and you get into those cars that are finding that extra half a tenth, 3/4 of a second, maybe even a little bit more than that, and it's going to be a lot more difficult to make the move stick. You see the 15 just ahead of that group all over the back of the 46 that Jimmy Mullis says. Next driver they're going to have in line is going to be Ben Nelson, Ashton Crowder, Dylan Duvall in that pack as well. Fight for the race lead, by the way. We're starting to see long run pace coming in, and like we saw at Michigan, the 62 of Keegan Leahy seems to have the long run advantage. Gap down to 7/10 of a second. It was pushing a second and a half. Just about 5 or 6 laps to go, so that 62 has speed on the late run. Last lap, he chased down Nicholas Shelton by 0.2 of a second. So that G2 Esports car is currently on a mission to get to the front.
And he continues to pull away from Hurst to close in on Shelton. Now the deepest into a run that we've been. Again, in that first run, only about 16 laps, I think, before we caught the yellow flag. The tire's going to fall away. Now he's going to start to feel that dirty air again. Again, when Shelton was pulling away, it was kind of helping the 62 out in that battle against Hurst. Now he's starting to get back into it. So this is going to be a real test. Just how good is the 62 up against Shelton, and he continues to be faster. The last time by, it was a solid 1/10 of a second difference. Let's see what the intervals are this time as they come by the start-finish line. Shelton, a race leader with a 29.775. Leahy behind with a 6.14, so nearly 2/10 better than him as he continues to close the gap. First and second now within a half a second.
And you look at the gap back from first to third, Taylor Hurst. That gap between him and the leader is kind of stabilized just a little bit. He's running by himself right now, about a half second back to Michael Conti, but Keegan Leahy has definitely turned the wick up here in this run. Takes him a little while to really get that car to come in, but Keegan Leahy closing in on that leader, Nick Shelton.
Now the question is he going to try to make this move in one fellowed swoop, or is he going to get onto the bumper and set him up and see how long this exchange is going to take place? And we're finding top 5 pretty close with Malik Ray, Bobby Zilinski. In fact, they are going to go side by side for P5, and you can see that Audi car looked like he was standing still. Malik Ray lets him go, so Bobby Zilinski flashed the nose, and Audi car lifted for him. They will exchange quite cordially, 5th and 6th position, with Zalenski trying to make his way back up to the front. And the battle for the race lead is on now, though. Leahy on the bumper. It's a half a car length difference. He's there. Now let's see as he tries to set him up at lap 46. Some speed off at turn 2. I don't know if it's going to be enough. He'll go to the inside, side by side for the race lead, and Shelton's not going to fight about it. Keegan Leahy makes up for the spots lost, back to the race lead at lap 46.
I'm telling you, the speed that these guys in this VRS Alliance have been able to find on the late run has been nothing more than impressive. We saw the speed that Keegan had out at Michigan. There really wasn't a wrong strategy for him as long as the race stayed green. We talked about the fact of that race when he stayed out about 10, 11 laps longer than anyone, whether or not the undercut was going to come into play. But that car was just so good when the tires got old that he was just able to outpace everyone out there on the racetrack. Other driver we have to keep an eye on, we just saw him make a move as well. The 18 of Bobby Zilinski, part of that alliance with the 62 of Keegan Leahy. We know they work together. They both rock the virtual racing school sponsorship on their race cars. Bobby was picking up speed and was sort of matching the kind of times Keegan was doing. He wasn't quite as fast, but relatively still quicker than everyone else around him. Look at the time he's been making up on Michael Connie. He's getting ready to put that number 18 Camry into the top 4, and as we peek to the outside, he's just about going to get there. So move Bobby Zilinski into the top 4, and I expect him to chase down Taylor Hurst in a handful of laps as well.
It was kind of reverse to what we've seen in some of the other battles. Normally the car flashing it nose to the inside, initiates the pass, and then the other car lifts out of it. But I think Michael Conti actually stepped down the hill there to let the 18 keep his preferred line and take that position away. So Zalenski now right back to where he started, running in 4th position right now. Certainly could pay dividends for that Interstate Batteries Toyota if he is very good on the long run and we can keep up this momentum. He's a second behind Taylor Hurst, who would be the next car to catch. Hurst still 3rd. Of course, we saw Shelton just recently fall back to 2nd. Keegan Leahy is already 1 entire second, actually, ahead of P2 there. So he gets by and is showing us that flashes of brilliance that we saw in the first run for that long run were not anything to be deceived by, and that car is very good.
And when you look at that battle for positions 2, 3, and 4, albeit there's a little bit of time in between them, but as Randy mentioned, Bobby Zilinski is coming to the front. Taylor Hurst, a little bit quicker than Nick Shelton. So you have some comers and goers on the longer run here as we continue to work around here. Keegan Leahy continuing to lead, but there's Shelton. There's the 33 of Ben Nelson. He's got his hands completely full. Look at that conga line working around here.
Yeah, this is this battle that Luza and Mullis, who continue to be, by the way, in line with each other. Luza top the 46 car, have been in. It's these big lines. Watch this. The 53 going to go to the inside. They're fighting with Dylan Duvall for 15th. Luza gets the spot. Mullis follows him through. He'll get the position as well. And for Mullis, instead of trying to get a 2-for-1 there and sticking a nose to the inside of the 53, he just tucks up in line. So these two cars, oftentimes if you got 2 fast race cars back in the back, you can waste time fighting with each other. They're both plus 17, 52 laps into the run, and they're doing it by somewhat working together there. Maybe just really not challenging each other and staying in line. And I would expect them to get a lot closer to a top 10 running position by the time we get this, if we get all the way to green flag pit stops. But those intervals now are going to be a lot further apart for position. They're kind of broken away for the conga line, and everybody behind gets to still deal with that big single file line as the 15 of Guerrilla thinking about to the inside of Duvall, but he's not going to do it.
Tried to make that move stick, but just no speed there with that race car. Now he's going to have Kristen Challinor in the 37 to deal with as they work off turn 2 and down the back straightaway. But it really just shows experience, and it shows maturity from the Jimmy Mullis, being able to just sit behind that number 53 car and let him lead the group and basically just sit there behind him and say, you know what, Ryan, I think you maybe have a little bit more speed. If not, we're equal. Just cut through this field like butter for me and I'll follow you on through. 183 lap race. I am just fine staying parked right underneath the rear spoiler for the first 140 laps of it as we move both of our ways up through the field and towards this top 10.
And we'll see now, lap 54, kind of what the strategy is going to be to expect in this one. Tim, you can go a lot further out of fuel than the tires may allow you to, as more positions swap the back of the pack. Challinor getting around Duvall for 18th and 19th. You see that big horde of cars right there. This is not going to simmer down anytime soon. You're probably going to be on this to the end. But, I mean, an early yellow flag again in the opening 20 laps, Tim. I would expect it didn't change the green flag strategy all that much for these guys.
No, I don't really think it did, and obviously if we see a caution in the middle stages of this race, it's going to change it again. These crew chiefs have all these strategies played out, but I don't think with that early caution it really played a whole lot into the strategy one way or another. But we've seen some green flag runs here at Darlington. We saw it there last year, and we saw the race go green. So I'm anticipating that these guys are on their game. It probably changed it a little bit, but not by much, Evan, as you see the number 5 there. Abusa, a little bit of a wiggle there. Here comes The 88 of Davies to the inside. Davies going to go way inside, and there's Blake Reynolds, one of those playoff contenders, trying to pick up a couple of positions here.
And flashing her nose down to the inside line is Davies in line here with the likes of Reynolds, Diaz, Kirwan, who is continuing to try to make up for this in the grid. The 88 gets the spot.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt here. I actually just take a look. I noticed some damage on the number 62 of Keegan Leahy on the right front. He did that on his 55th lap coming out of turn 2. He smacked the outside wall all by himself, and his lap times have dropped. Compare that to that VRS partnership. Yeah, well, no, not the 74. Your race leader, the 62 of Leahy. He has damage, and his lap times have really started to slow up. He started to pick them back up, but that 62 car, a scary moment off turn 2 about 4 laps ago.
Yeah, the 74 also got into the fence, so there's a couple of cars here that are starting to really fall off at the pace late. I saw that 18 is Zilinski, who is passing the 74, and eventually the 62 getting up and into the outside wall. So that interval between first and second also is going to start to close in. That's that fine line that you have to walk, and I think it's a little bit different, Tim, with these 2019 cars, the incessant on keeping them clean and how aerodynamically sensitive they are with the lower horsepower and a lot more momentum based to get around a racetrack as fast as you can. But I mean, the Darlington stripes are still fine. You can get up into the wall and scrape it, but I mean, you overstep it by a fraction of a second on your lifting and your braking points, and I mean, a hard hit can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, you can still scrape the wall a little bit, but as Randy said, that damage is going to hurt Keegan Leahy down the road here. We'll see on his green flag pit stop if he can get it out and knock it out just a little bit, but we're going to have a battle for second on our hands. Here comes that Interstate Batteries number 18 closing in, and that battle in the middle of the pack continues to rage on. This is where the part of the run where there's comers and goers. It's hard to find one place to watch around this racetrack. There's the 42 at Dylan Duvall, having a great run here this evening, or was having a great run earlier. Has fallen to 19th. It's a battle for 19th and 20th as Busa gets that run in behind Blake. Reynolds gets that run to the inside, and the inside line trying to make it happen here through the corner.
Yeah, 2x2, and both the cars to the inside are going to make the job done. So that bottom line in 3 and 4, again, tighter, harder to get back into the throttle. Impressed that they've been able to gate those passes, but obviously faster race cars can find due as we watch the battle between second and third now. Here comes Bobby Zalenski, who's been on a tear, and the 79 car going to leave the outside open, and he'll take care of that one nice and easily. So Bobby Zalenski now at a race high P2 at 62, and a little wiggle down into turn 1. Say thanks to Shelton for letting him go by without incident. Now the gauntlet's there. Bobby Zalenski 2 seconds off for the race lead. Let's watch those intervals carefully up top and see if he's got something for him as some cars fresh off of the pit lane are trying to blend back up into traffic.
And I think that lap traffic hurt Keegan Leahy because that gap is not 2 seconds anymore. You see that 62 car right out in front of him. How much time did Keegan Leahy lose on this lap? Nearly 2 seconds, gap down to 6/10. And right now, Bobby Zilinski is looking like a quicker car between the two of them out there on the racetrack. Still, we're talking about, of course, that damage with the 62 of Keegan Leahy. We might see the 18 of Bobby Zilinski up and on him and potentially fighting for this race lead before we get to the end of this sort of second stint.
And the 62 getting more damage. That car wasn't off of the pit lane. He was pulling up slow on the apron, but that was because he made contact with Keegan Leahy, was actually trying to get around him. So a couple of blows for the 62 has evaporated his advantage last time by. Leahy's able to get his feet back underneath him, and, well, they are back to even lap times, but that piece of contact took the bulk of that 2-second advantage away. It stays even at 6/10 of a second of difference between first and second spot. No, it's nowhere near as challenging as all the lap traffic you deal with at Bristol. So I guess last week was a good primer for this one. But if that 62 machine hasn't had any luck, it's only been bad luck so far tonight.
And we saw that last year in the playoffs as well. Keegan Leahy had such a great season last year and then struggled a little bit when it came to the playoff round, and ended up on the outside looking in when it came to racing for a championship. There's a driver there that's strong at this racetrack. Michael Conti battling with Taylor Hurst. That's the battle for position number 4. Zach Novak in behind them as well. They're coming up on the lap car of Garrett Lowe, so we'll keep an eye on that and see if there's any sort of factor there. But Taylor Hurst, once again, the independent, having a great run here this evening, well within the top 5 on this green flag run, but he's got Conti and Novak in behind, 2 playoff drivers that I'm sure want that position.
And Michael Conti again had the very good start to the race, just the restarts. That short run has not played in to the 8-car strategy. Lost the race lead off at the get-go, and on the restart was on the outside of the front row and has since fallen back to where you see him right now in the number 5 spot and being challenged by that 6. Novak, I know it's impressive runs for Luza and Mullis, and they have had a little bit further a ways to go than Novak, but at least now it's the number 6 car who has been putting on the most impressive drive. If he can complete the pass here, he'll be plus 20 from the start of the race, and he's really given it sideways that time off of the corner as he tries to complete the move on a Conti. This battle some 4 seconds off of the race lead as he'll look high with the 8 car taking the low line in 3 and 4.
The 6 and Novak definitely having good speed here, and off of turn 4, Novak going to have the preferred line, going to have a run, but Conti not really letting him through. Look at the way that 6 Oscar Mayer car just sucks up right in towards turn 1, but just as you get there, the turn just, of course, comes up, and you can't quite make anything stick. Through the center of 1 and off of 2. This time, no run again for Zach Novak. Maybe the slipstream can help him out just a bit. He'll have sort of the double draft of the 74 for Taylor Hurst, but look at Conti and Novak. They both go to the bottom. Taylor Hurst alone up there by the wall, and let's see, can the 8 get a good run off the corner? The answer is going to be yes, but I think the run off the corner for the top groove is still too strong, and Conti's going to have to get back in line.
He tucks back in line, kind of been flirting with giving the 6 an opportunity there. I feel like if Zach Novak really wanted to push, he could have given it a little bit more there, but of course he's confident in his speed. No reason to throw it away, but you know, in the blink of an eye, you get into a rhythm. We're already 69 laps into this 183 lap contest, so this race really starting to make some progress as we close in on a possible first trip down to the pit lane for your race leaders for some green flag service. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by PEAK Antifreeze, the official antifreeze of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, and on the cusp of maybe some service.
And looking at that battle or that gap up in front, it looks like Bobby Zalenski's fallen off the pace a little bit of Keegan Leahy. At least the last couple of laps, he just had Adam Benefield go by him after coming off at pit road, and this last time by, it's gone to 1.7 seconds between Keegan Leahy and Bobby Zilinski. So it looks like that gap is widening just a little bit. This great battle on your screen right now continues to be Taylor Hurst, Michael Conti, and Zach Novak as they ride around in 4th, 5th, and 6th. And right in behind, there's Ray Alfalla in that Wood Brothers number 21, trying to get up on the wheel here and get himself a win before this season is all said and done. He loves this racetrack, but right in front of him, he's got a front row seat to the battle with the 6 of Zach Novak going to the inside of Michael Conti as they come off of 4.
And he's not going to be able to make that stick off of the corner, so he'll tuck back in line, reset, and try it again, and see if this 6 machine is going to be able to get the job done. Right up on the outside wall there is, I wonder if Oldie's car is faster than Taylor Hurst, because I mean, when you tend to see a group of 4 or 5 cars all strung together and kind of packed in, it tends to mean that the car in front's a little bit slower. So while the 6 has been trying to get around Conti, Conti's also been trying to do this move to the inside of Hurst. Side by side for 4th position now. It is not going to stick. And if that 6 car can find a gap, yes, he will. Michael Conti, not the first time tonight. He's gone for a pass and he got stuck at the inside. And look how easy it is for Novak to get the job done when he has that preferred positioning outside. Very easily gets it done at 1 and 2. And at this point, Conti get a step down the racetrack, and it looks like he'll let Alfalla go. In fact, the 8 car to pit road. Conti's coming in at lap 73.
And I like this call from the 8 of Conti right now. I mean, Michael has good speed, but I don't think he has the pace advantage over a lot of the cars that are starting to filter up towards him. That 6 of Novak looks quick. Also, some of the other cars running up near the head of the field quick as well. 6 of Novak now fights with Taylor Hurst through 1 and 2, and Novak's going to do what Michael Conti wasn't able to. Novak makes that move stick on the bottom, and now Ray Alfalla is licking his chops and is trying to make a move here on the 74 of Taylor Hurst and in towards 3 and 4. That Wood Brothers 21 won't quite get clear, but he's not trying to. Towards pit road comes Ray Alfalla, and he's all sorts of sideways onto pit road, and again he's able to hold it.
Well, the pit road entry here is crazy because there's so much apron down there, unused space, that you got a lot to work with. Watch Alfalla here. He drops down to the inside of 3. There's no lines or markers. You kind of make up your own mind until you see that yellow line start to close into the commitment cone. Some drivers can get awfully tight to the barrels there as Bobby Zilinski now comes in from the race lead. There is so much time that can be gained or lost on green flag service, just getting in and off of the pit lane. So Zalenski gives up the top spot, and Zach Novak going to complete the run, 25th to the race lead right now as he cycles through to take control.
And the lap before Zilinski came in, Keegan Leahy came in. So we'll see if Zach Novak follows that trend and comes down onto pit road on this lap. In behind, though, Taylor Hurst in position number 2. We'll see if the Oscar Mayer number 6 stays out on the racetrack or comes down pit road. He is going to make his way down, and looks like that JDR Graphic 74 is going to follow him down. The 16 of Chris Overland stays out on the racetrack, and he will take the lead here on lap number 76.
So this is going to continue until we complete all of our service, but these drivers headed down to the pit lane with about 55 laps or so on this run, which would set us up pretty good to go one more stop to the end, because we have about 110 laps to go in this race, just under that. So it all seems to check out in the strategy game that it would be a two-stopper. Overland now, you see the ride spin forward down pit road, so he'll now give it over to the 30 car of Blake Reynolds, who will take a spin up at the front of the field. And now you're going to start to see lapped cars mixed in with race leaders. And of course, if the one car is passing the other, that's probably going to be actually the lap car as they get back out there with fresh tires. Just take Reynolds, for example. His best lap tonight was a 28.2. His last was a 29.8. So we're looking at almost 2 seconds of fall off from the start.
And if anyone's hearing dial-up noises, that is Jeff Green's 2001 ride, and yellow comes out. This is going to change everything as we got a lot of those race leaders locked a lap down.
They were just completing service, and this is a big wreck at 1 and 2. I think it started with the 99 car of Logan Clampett. He's at the start, and the 88's there as well. I had just mentioned faster cars, slower cars. Well, we tried to squeeze 3 wide with Clampett, Davies, and Cattell, and you'll see the replay here. This is how it all sets up. Coming off of the quarter, big run for the 99. He'll go to the inside. There's the 3 wide there, but we just run out of real estate. Cattell's that bright car on the outside, and just barely the 88 car at Davies gets tagged, and that's at least half a dozen race cars involved in that accident. The 46 of Jimmy Mullis was incredibly close to being involved in that. I don't know how the 46 survived it.
We talked earlier about anticipation, trying to make sure you know that something's going to happen in front of you. Look at this onboard with Jimmy Mullis up the racetrack into the wall just a wee bit. But that could have been a lot worse for that Federated Auto Parts number 46 of Mullis, as he'll come down pit road, I'm sure, and get that side of the car massaged just a little bit. The 30 of Blake Reynolds is on pit road. I would assume there'd be a lot of drivers here, Evan, that are going to stay out and get the wave around on this caution. But as you mentioned, it's going to trap a lot of our leaders, our former leaders, 1 lap down. Keegan Leahy was on the lead lap, I believe, at that point when the caution flag came out, so it might benefit him a little bit, but we'll see what all transpires here as Blake Reynolds' service already completed on the Team Dillon Esports number 30. He's already down and away.
I believe Leahy and Zelensky were the only 2 from your race leaders who had pitted that had cycled back to the race lead. I saw 11 cars on the lead lap at the moment of yellow. Of course, if you're Blake Reynolds, you figure, well, if the strategy plays itself out, you're out there burning up your tires. You're actually going to give up a net loss just by running more laps on the older tires. But the risk of being some of the first cars down pit road as this happens, you get trapped down there, and it is going to completely shuffle up the running order for our race leaders. The number 31 machine at the moment, Logan Kress, scored as your leader that time by. He will pick up, I actually don't even think he's going to be given the bonus point, but he will come down pit road now. Some cars obviously just staying out for a lap to get back to the lead lap. We'll have more than 11 cars on the race lead lap by the time this lead resets, but a handful of cars coming down to the pit lane, and the 30 car Blake Reynolds is back in. The 30 was leading this race, got 4 tires and just pitted. He's back down pit road to do a drive-through, I believe, so we'll see, or he's going to go back into the box, but Blake Reynolds was set to gain a lot of positions, and he's going to drop right back to where he was, I think, after he comes back in for a second time. Curious if there's a penalty associated with that or if he's trying to get damage fixed. No service. Tires aren't going on.
I wonder if there's an adjustment getting made to that car. They're going to have a full lap before those drivers getting the wave around get there. So Blake Reynolds only really costing himself a couple of spots in terms of track position, and he's going to have the tire advantage in the first place. I actually think, Kevin, I wonder if this 30 of Blake Reynolds recognizes a potential fuel window here, and that's why he's coming down pit road to top up the extra time before we go back to green flag racing. We still have another lap, I believe, until the lights end up going out on the safety car. But if you're the 30 of Blake Reynolds, if you've just seen a pit window and are taking advantage of it, what a great situation for that 30 car. He's going to have the newest tires of a lot of those drivers up inside of the top X positions, and he's going to be topped up on fuel.
And we'll see. It would be a stretch of about 100 laps to be able to go the distance. Again, we know that the concern isn't trying to be able to get enough fuel to do a one-stop strategy. With about 100 laps to go on the restart, we know that a one-stopper from this point on is well within the realm of possibility. But for the 62 machine of Keegan Leahy here, the advantage and disadvantage of all of this is he's actually going to end up, Tim, as our race leader again, having negated taking any pit service because he was just down recently.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens here on this restart. We saw the 62 take a little while to really get up to speed, but we'll see what transpires here as he'll catch up to the back of the pace car.
As we get set to restart this race, lights go out on top of the pace car. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, certified pure #1 diesel exhaust fluid. It'll be a restart just shy of that 100 lap to go marker, about 2 dozen shy of being halfway home in this Darlington 183 tonight. So your revised running order: Keegan Leahy to the point, Michael Gass second, with Nathan Lyon, Kane Cook, Ryan Lowe through 5th. In fact, Keegan Leahy is the only car restarting inside of the top 8 who started this race inside of the top 18. All of these cars gained a lot from that caution flag timing, and the lights go back on top of the pace cars. So we will reset, and we will go around to come to the green flag next time through. Bobby Zalenski, who was right behind Leahy when the caution flag came out, he did decide to pit, and that cost him, so that's why he's back in P10.
Yeah, cost him a little bit. Race control extending this yellow here, getting the entire field stacked back up. So, well, I think that's a good call as we're going to get the whole line strung back up here. A little bit of anticlimaticism as Evan spent all that time hyping up this restart, but I'm excited to watch this. I think this 30 of Blake Reynolds is going to be an absolute missile going through this field. The thing about Blake Reynolds, of course, he won your regular season championship. He was the only driver in the top 8, I believe, to not win a race. I think actually Michael Connie may not have won one as well, and actually, yeah, I will confirm that. So Blake Reynolds didn't win a race. He won your regular season championship, and he's just been stupid consistent. He has had great speed all season long, and now with the tire advantage, I think Blake is going to be really quick here on this restart, as we're going to be green this time for sure.
And we'll see if drivers feel like, based on that last run, that this one could go for a while. Let's see how serious they take the restart. Green flag back in the air. 83 laps down. 100 laps to go at Darlington Raceway. It's a good jump for the 62. Leahy is all on his own to turn 1. Gast will hang on to 2nd. And we'll watch the fight for 3rd. Lyon on the inside of Cook.
It was a big start for Keegan Leahy and left them battling for position number 2, but now the accordion comes back in corner number 2, and here comes the 17 to the inside. Michael Guest has something for the lead, dives it down into turn number 3. The 62 trying to roll the top and keep the momentum up. They're going to be side by side coming off of corner number 4. Keegan Leahy's going to lead this lap, and it looks like the outside line is going to gain that speed. Here comes Nathan Lyon to position number 2.
Yeah, so the 17 tried the bottom, wasn't able to make it work, lost a spot. He's got real estate up there now as he pulls up in front of the 2 of Cook. So now it is the 7 of Ryan Lowe running on the inside line, and we'll see how he makes this play in as he tries to run about as high of a line as you can with the car on the outside. Kane Cook didn't have a lot of extra real estate there, but he'll fight through outside the better place to be off of the restarts. Cook gets the position. Here comes Eric J. Smith from 36th to 6th. They get all these cars making significant moves through the field, try to take advantage of a bit of luck on that last caution flag timing.
And look at the 4 of Nathan Lyon. He was so close to potentially picking up a win last week at Bristol, but a strategy call on the late race yellow robbed it from him. He chose not to come down pit road. The entire rest of the field behind him came down and got new tires, took him out of contention. Now, as we approach halfway in this race, he's going to start pressuring your race leader. So Letard Esports car, 2 weeks running, going to find themselves out near the head of this field when it starts getting into go time for this race. Another run for the 4 of Nathan Lyon, but he's not going to be even close enough to make a move. They stay single file, as in the background, looks like Alan Kulwicki's starting to lurk back there inside of your top 5. That's Ryan Lowe in the 7.
He kind of makes up the back end of this 6-car train here. Small gap then back to Garrett Lowe and the rest of the pack. And Blake Reynolds actually passing him. So Reynolds up to 7th, Garrett Lowe down to P8. But there's your on-board shot with Ryan Lowe, and you can see how quickly he closes on the back. Eric J. Smith gonna have to get down and out of the way. 51 car, I don't know if he tried to squeeze in behind the 2 or what, but he got moved by the 7 car, and he'll get back up in line before the 30 car is able to get on him. But close call there, and again, not surprisingly, corner 2, the culprit.
And lucky to only lose one position there as Eric Smith falls back one spot. The 30 car of Blake Reynolds now up on the wheel and trying to pick up one more position. And in behind, Garrett Lowe, he's had an up and down night and currently trending up now in the top 10 and trying to pick up a couple more positions. In behind, Bobby Zilinski is trying to pick up one more spot.
Nathan Lyon continues to close things down in the battle for the race lead. Here's the onboard shot with him as he peeks out to the inside, but a half a car length off. He's not going to pull down and make that move, but you can tell Lyon wants to try to go for it. And of course, Randy, you mentioned the good run that he had just a week ago, but the strategy miscue that took the opportunity to fight for the race went away from him. Of course, his team boss is a former crew chief driving for Latardi Sports, so curious if Steve gave him a call in the week and they worked on some strategy. He's gone 24th to 2nd, so whatever they've been running on tonight, and again, yellow flag time, it makes your life a lot easier, but it seems to be working out. Let's see if he can take advantage of this one as he's all over the 62 car. Next time by, going to be halfway home.
Whatever the strategy is, I think right now it has to be pressure that 62 and make him use his tires. We know Keegan has otherworldly pace. Once we get about 20 to 25 laps into the run, the short run, everyone actually looks really even with some of these new guys that didn't qualify that well. We're in your mid-pack and some even beyond your mid-pack. Look at the 4 Nathan Lyon, bit of a run in towards turn 1. Nothing going just yet, but these guys are not letting the 62 and Keegan Lahey open up a huge lead in the early phase of the run. Shows how competitive this championship is. All these drivers, you have drivers that qualified 24th, 35th, 37th, 36th inside of your top 6, and they're pressuring that 62 car like they lined up in the top 5 rows.
They've been battling back in the pack for the better part of the night, but it goes to show you, you give them an opportunity, you plant them in the top 10, and they can run right there with your race leaders. Keegan Lahey, though, has been on both sides of this early run tonight. He has been the car that has used the clean air out in front to get away, and he has been the car second in line who has had the dirty air keep him away from your race leader. So as the 4 machine sticks with him, Lahey has a good idea of how this is going to work out, but this is critical, Tim, for the 4 and the 17. How about Michael Guest? Not hanging back at all in his number 17 Ford to keep the 62 honest, not let your race leader get that second advantage that we've been seeing all night on the 2 previous starts.
Yeah, we've seen Keegan Lahey, though, pick up some speed and continue on, and on that long run, he picks up speed. So if Nathan Lyon can keep with him here and potentially take the lead, he might be able to stop that run, but he's got to get by him first.
And that's the key, is you're going to be able to get around. Working lap number 94 right now from Darlington. Let's take a look at your iRacing midway race break as we're halfway home. From the Lady in Black, Keegan Lahey, your race leader, at this point holding just a little bit over of a 1/10 of a second advantage over Nathan Lyon second. You're watching a battle just outside the top 10. Michael Guest has scored 3rd at the moment with Kane Cook in 4th and Ryan Lowe rounding out your top 5. Eric Smith getting passed by Blake Reynolds. They're duking it out for 6th and 7th position. Garrett Lowe is just behind them in 8th. Then you find Bobby Zalenski, who pitted and hasn't been able to make up much time since it off for the restart. He's 9th. Cody Bias right now 28th to P10 on the racetrack.
And sitting in position number 11 is Nick Shelton. Jarl Tian sits in 12th. Corey Vincent 13th. Ryan Luza 14th. Zach Novak runs in at 15th. Taylor Hurst has some work to do. He's sitting in 16th place right now. Michael Conti, same boat, in 17th. Running up in the top 5 on that first long green flag run. Needs to get up on the wheel here after that cycle of green flag pit stops went bad with the caution. Chris Overland 18th, Ray Alfalla in 19th, Wood Brothers running just inside the top 20, and Jimmy Mullis completes your top 20 as he battles with Ray Alfalla.
Cisco covering for Higa today finally finds the right button as Ashton Crowder rides 21st. Kristen Challinor 22nd. Ben Nelson in 23rd. Logan Clampett 24th. With Chris Shearburn in the 25th spot. Matt Busso, Michael Gariglia, Dylan Duvall, Jake Nichols, and Nick Ottinger will round out your top 30.
Only 2 more cars on the lead lap. It'll be Kasey Kirwan in 31st position and Logan Kress in 32nd. Then 4 cars a lap down. It's Adam Benefield 33rd, Casey Tucker 34th, Phil Diaz 35th, and Brad Davies in P36. Schoenberg, who was in an earlier wreck, is 2 laps down in 37th. and then cars that have had big issues. So Brandon Cattell on pit road in 38th position. Malik Ray, who was running up front earlier out of this race, scored 39th. Timmy Hill has also gone to the garage. He has scored at 40th position, and that'll complete a look top to bottom at your iRacing midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today and use promo code PR-eNASCAR 2019, and you can get your first 3 months as a new iRacing member for just $10. That comes with all the cars and tracks you need to start. Again, that is code PR-eNASCAR 2019, and it applies to new iRacing memberships only. Watching a fight here back with Ryan Luza, Zach Novak, and all of these cars who have been consistently making their way through the field. It had been Mullis and Luza lockstep with each other for the better part of the night. They've now become separated. Luza P15 is the best he's been all night, and Novak in front of him making a move on the 27 to Corey Vincent. So Novak to 13th with that pass in corner 3.
I think that battle for the lead is going to be one we have to watch here in a couple laps, because Nathan Lyon 2 laps ago was underneath the 62 of Keegan Leahy, but couldn't make that move work, and now it's back to 2 car lengths in between those two. And Evan, I think this is about the time where Keegan Leahy's car really starts to get good. If Nathan Lyon were to complete that pass 2 laps ago, he might have had a shot at leading this thing and keeping Keegan back in the dirty air, but now Keegan Leahy starts to stretch his legs, starts to extend the lead. Michael Guest in behind in position number 3, trying to close in on the 4 of Nathan Lyon, and then they've got a second back to Kane Cook and the rest of the field. So I think this is the time where we're going to start seeing Keegan really stretch his legs and keep that lead and build on that lead here on lap 102.
But it's always hard to see how hard these guys are pushing it. But Randy, that's kind of why I posed the question right off for the restart. We just got off of a long green flag run. This thing could easily go through pit stops to the end at our 183 lap schedule distance. So would a Nathan Lyon, would a Michael Guest want to give it that little bit extra when they were within striking distance of Leahy? We've been talking all night about how you can flash a nose, but maybe you don't really make that move at Darlington. I was curious if that was going to flip at this point, knowing that, again, if you ride around long enough and that 62 starts to gap you, you may not get an opportunity to go back on him. So Nathan Lyon has been keeping it cool, and obviously the 4 car wants to run at this pace. Leahy is tiptoeing away, though. 0.3 of a second difference. 2 more 100ths in his favor as Garrett Lowe and Bobby Zalenski will go side by side for 8th, and the 18 car is going to go way up, and Garrett Lowe is going to get put into the outside wall. Cody Bias will tag him also, and that's one way to make a move as Zalenski bowls his way past, and Lowe now lost a lot of speed. He's limping 3 wide into the corner now. Look at the 83 car all the way on the inside line, 3x3 in turn 4.
This usually doesn't work, but I think they're going to get it sorted out. And you want to talk about taking a risk. That's a couple of your playoff drivers, the 18 and the 28 that started that wheel-to-wheel contact in the 1 and 2, and now look at this huge stack up. This is half the field that's trapped behind this entire group now. After all the speed those guys lost, Novak's able to slip through. I believe it's who that was in that little mix, and the 79 is Shelton. He's going to get around the 28. Next is Jarl T in the G2 Esports sister car to the race leader, Keegan Leahy. Ryan Lutz is going to eye up the inside as well, and there's still 10, 15, 20 cars all trapped behind the 28 of Garrett Lowe, who after getting sent into turn 1 and 2 has heavy damage on the right side of that car and finds himself trapped off on that top side of the racetrack. Can he finally get that thing back up to speed? Can he get the run off of turn 2, or will Luza have the run? Luza actually has some good speed. I think the fight's going to be on here as Conti's going to look to the inside as well in the background of this fight.
The 28 car's hurt. He has had Corey Vincent pushing him on the straightaways, and it has not helped. So Luza gets around him. Michael Conti getting the next one up, and just look how much slower the 28 is off of the corner. Look at him dropping back. The cars behind him are pushing him. It doesn't matter. Garrett Lowe is limping around the racetrack after getting put into the outside wall, and that throwback paint scheme.
Oh, Zach up behind. 2 cars on the wall behind. The 5 is
staying green. Oh, there it is. The 5 car. Busa is around, and the caution flag is out. Second time we've seen one of those Williams Esports machines wrong way around on the back straightaway, and it was kind of a long, drawn-out one. He actually had nothing to do with the initial piece of contact. Those are the 2 slow cars there, the 83 and the 99, and Busa just went solo to try to avoid it. There's no grip on the apron. He lost it on his own.
And it almost looks like back there where we had those cars battling in front, it's almost like a ticking time bomb waiting for something to happen. You ride on board with Boosie, you see those battles in front, and then the bomb goes off in front and it doesn't completely detonate, and the 5 tried to keep it straight and lost control of it to bring out this caution flag. Tough break for Matt Busa, but you almost had that anticipation in the atmosphere there that something was going to go wrong, and it definitely did on that lap. But everybody now going to come down onto pit road. Quick little note, though, before we look at those pit stops. That 17 of Michael Guest was nipping to the inside of the 4 of Nathan Lyon before that caution flag flew. So it looked like Michael Guest had something there on that longer run. Just couldn't make it work before that yellow flag flew. We'll see what he can do on pit road.
Race leaders are in. Interestingly enough, Garrett Lowe actually stays out. The 28 machine really needs to get that car fixed. He'll get a bonus point out of this, which is going to be critical for his championship, but that damage and all those positions lost puts him in a really tough spot after a night had looked like it was going more or less in his favor. So Leahy ends up being the first car down to the pit lane. No surprise, it'll be 4 tires and fuel, and it'll be a drag race to the end, but as he was able to get in and out of the box cleanly, he'll win that race off of pit road. So Leahy maintains that. Nathan Lyon second off of the pit lane, followed by Michael Guest, Kane Cook, and Ryan Lowe. 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the racetrack. Garrett Lowe will dive down to the pit lane now, give up the race lead. Things should cycle back in favor of the 62 machine. I was talking a little bit earlier about using that promo code to get yourself started on iRacing, all the cars and tracks that come with it. New cars coming to the iRacing service. It's the 2019 Xfinity Series cars now available. Let's take a look at them. Back live from the virtual Darlington Raceway as we get set for a restart. The pit lap 111 behind us in this playoff opener for the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. It'll be the number 62 of Keegan Leahy in control. We'll go quiet. You can turn it up. Here's some Race Spot TV fan immersion as we look for the green flag back underway at Darlington. Keegan Leahy is able to maintain the race lead in this one. You saw the 17 to Michael Guest coming after him on the restart there, but it didn't really work out for him. And the 6 car is the one down low. Zach Novak off track is going to get turned. Shelton gets into the back end. He's going to go all the way to the wall, but somehow Novak hangs on, and we stay green.
But he falls all the way back to the back of the field. He lost a ton of time, but he still has a race car to race with, so I guess that's the good thing if you're Zach Novak. But close call there for those two, but we stay green up in front. Nathan Lyon on the back bumper, the 62 of Keegan Leahy, trying to make something happen for the lead position. We saw Nathan Lyon pressure Keegan Leahy for about 15 laps in that last run, but he wasn't able to get by. We'll see if he can get by this time and try to take the lead away and maybe mount something for a win here.
Novak, the latest playoff driver to have a big scare. He drops all the way back outside of the top 30. Here's the battle for the race leader, because the one driver that didn't fall back at all of that was Lyon. He stayed on the outside when Guest was trying to make the bottom work. And as we've learned off of the restarts here tonight, Randy, outside the place to be for the first dozen or so. So Lyon's able to stay on the bumper, and it's exactly what we saw last run. Leahy trying to use the clean air to get away. The number 4 car doing his best to keep him within range. This time it's the number 2 of Kane Cook, who is the 3rd car in line. Guest 4th, low in P5. But let's see if the 4 machine changes anything, or if he just wants to follow the 62 car through. As in a couple of laps here, actually this next time by, it'll be 65 to go.
I think that 4 of Nathan Lyon is going to have to do something if he wants to really pressure the 62 car. I don't think he has the speed to get around the 62 unless he makes a mistake. So Nathan Lyon, does he maybe pull out the bumper here at Darlington? It's a scary place to do it. Out at Bristol last time we saw, of course, the average speed's much lower, especially through the corners, so you can kind of move people and do so a lot cleanly, especially without parking him. But, I mean, the way this race is going right now, and as sketchy as these cars look, one little touch, I think, from that 4 should he want to pick that spot up, Evan. And I think that 62 is at risk of going around, just as treacherous as this racetrack is. And you never want to be the guy, the first playoff round of the season, that sends one of your championship contenders going down to the inside wall. It's a great way to not make friends for probably quite a long time.
Well, I'll tell you what, it hasn't scared people so far. We've had lapped cars going 3 wide with some of our playoff competitors. As you're watching the 77 of Ashton Crowder work the inside. He was trying to go forwards, but it is going to have the adverse effect. The 27 of Corey Vincent completes a pass on him. That was an exchange for 15th and 16th position. They go single file. And now Ray Alfalla is the next one to drop down off of the line. The 21 car searching on the inside off of 4. And across the front straightaway, he'll lose the battle to Blake Reynolds. In the 51 of Eric Smith gets loose into the corner. Thought he was actually going to have a pretty good opportunity to set him up. Doesn't work out as Loser now seeks to make his way by off of turn number 2 with a run. There's the peak to the inside, the fight for 9th.
There's the run to the inside, but can he do anything with it? Dives it in deep into turn number 3, drove it in deep, picks up 1 position for the time being, because here comes the 51 back on that outside line. He drove it in deep. He did what he had to do, Evan, but he couldn't get clear. He's going to try to do it again here, and he'll do so and pick up position number 9, but that's the way you got to do it. You really have to drive that car in deep and kind of commit to that inside line and have that run all at the same time. But now Ray Alfalla is the next one on the list for Ryan Luzes. Luza looks over the back of that Wood Brothers number 21 to try to make something happen here on lap 122.
That shot through 3 to 4 is off of the bumper, the 21 of Alfalla. So you saw the 53 machine closing in on him as Luza wants to continue his march forward. Luza 32nd to 9th. Eric J. Smith 36th to 10th. A lot of drivers have made big gains tonight at Darlington, but now it's pretty much the home stretch. You could, in theory, go the distance to the end of this one if you wanted to push it. We'll see if caution flags will have a hindrance on that strategy at all or not, but you're not really going to get these cars this close to one another again if we don't see a yellow. So get the spots when you can. Alfalla not willing to push, though. He'll stay behind the 30 for the moment. Lose on his bumper as well. So all these spots, it's that accordion effect. Somebody looks to make a move. They can't do it. They lose some time. Car behind him gets an opportunity, and so on and so forth. But they will update you on the intervals up front. Keegan Leahy has been doing much better on this run as your race leader than the last one. There's the gap. He's a half a second ahead of Nathan Lyon, who's in the number 2 spot. And then it is about an equidistance gap back to Kane Cook in 3rd. Cook and Guest actually having a pretty good fight here in the number 2 in the 17 cars.
Yeah, a couple tenths separating those two as they run in 3rd and 4th position. Great run here for the 2 car of Kane Cook. He's had a couple great runs thus far this season, but doing very well this week as well. Michael Guest in that 17. That's a car that seemed to have so much promise in the early goings of this championship. Think back to the season opener at Daytona. I think he was in a position to win that race, but just didn't have luck on his side. Ended up spinning down on towards pit road, and championship never really picked back up in the way I think he would have liked. He's put in some good runs, was nearly potentially in it, I think, to get into the playoffs, but one little bit of contact with Challinor at Pocono as we neared the cutoff, and of course Bristol last week being the cutoff to get into the playoffs, just found himself way too far. But right now this sort of second group is where the stack up is, behind this 2013 themed trophy truck skinned car of Eric J. Smith. I love this here this week out in NASCAR competition. We get 2 trophy truck themed paint skins. This one Eric J. Smith representing team owner Jim Beaver, and of course Jimmy Johnson representing one of the trophy trucks that he came up with in the early days of motorsport, back from his days of racing in the deserts and in the Mickey Thompson series back in the 90s.
The Eric J. Smith one is fun because you mentioned it's the T-Motors throwback there, but as well they had a fan vote on Twitter for their other one. So teammate Michael Guerrilla running a Dale Earnhardt 1982 throwback. So that was fun as all these teams try to get everybody involved, and certainly having a good time here with Retro Week for this series. Is in this exchange, seeing a good fight with Jimmy Mullis. He is really pinching Jarl Tien up at the outside line. Tien going to be able to snake around and complete that pass. So Jarl up to P11. Really haven't talked too much about him. It's been the other G2 car who's been making all the noise, but Jarl Tien's been pretty consistently a top 12, top 13 car this evening. I don't think the 46 is going to let this one go, though. Mullis peeking back to the inside, but alas, he'll stay tucked behind him. There's the onboard shot. I mean, he's on him down into turn number 1, but at least not looking for the move yet.
You can't afford to make a mistake if you're one of those 2 drivers, especially hanging around the top 15, trying to lock up a top 10 run late in this race. And you look up ahead of you, there's a couple of close battles there as Mullis got that run down into the corner on the back bumper of the 66 he is, but can't really do anything with it and can't go back to the inside. He right on the bumper of that 46, and right up ahead, Eric J. Smith also a part of this battle. But you look up in front, single file, and those guys are really doing the same thing. They're trying to pick their positions and pick their passes right now. Still got a little ways to go in this race, just over 50 laps to go. And oh, by the way, Evan Keegan Leahy stepped out to about a 1.4 second lead on Nathan Lyon. He's really hit his stride here.
Yeah, by the time we leave tonight, Keegan Leahy is going to have the lap-led lead for totals in 2019. Came into this evening with 308 laps led. That was second most to Ryan Luza, who had led 329 laps. Of course, Luza is having a good night now. Again, P9 has been a world of difference for the 53 car compared to where he started back in 32nd. But Leahy has been the dominant car this evening. And, I mean, those lap leads are nice. It accounts for a very small amount of bonus points as we see the fight continue. The 46 car to the inside of Smith, side by side for 10th, and Jarl Tien's right back in this, but the most important thing would be a race win. If Keegan Leahy could do it, it'd be his 3rd on the year, and he would get that ticket straight to Homestead. So a lot running on the line here as the 51 car catches the fence, and that looks like it'll be it. Yeah, the 46 gets around him, so Mullis is spot game.
Did that look tight? That looked pretty tight to me between these 4 guys. The 66 of Jarl Tien into 3. Going to try to slide job the 51 of Eric Smith, but he's not going to commit. That door actually shut from Jimmy Mullis' head. Jimmy not having a great entry into 3. And the 66 of Jarl Tien makes contact with Eric Smith. And somehow they both hang on to it. Corey Vincent is going to snag an easy spot because of that. But somehow we don't end up under yellow after that bit of slicing and dicing into 3 and off of 4.
Well, that's not the first time Smith has been squeezed up to the outside wall, but Jarl Tien played with fire there, and what a piece of driving by both of those cars at some 140, 150 miles an hour to hang on. It was a huge wiggle by the 66, and I think Smith saw that one coming to back off a bit, and that could have easily been chaos with Cordy Vincent sandwiched in the middle of them, who could have became kind of a calamity victim there in the Renegades 4. A little bit further towards the front, the number 6 spot is where Bobby Zalenski sits now. He is, again, one of the few cars who started top 10, who's still top 10. If you're maybe just tuning in with us, a big shakeup at the halfway point in this race, but we got a caution flag halfway through pit stops, and it took a lot of top runners out of this. Only 3 cars who started top 10 right now actually run in the top 15. It's Leahy, your leader, Zilinski 6th, and Alfalla in 8th position. Almost everybody else has come from far and wide to get to where they run now. That includes that 30 car of Blake Reynolds, who's chasing him down for this spot.
And when you look at these 2 battles up here, you got 2 really good battles within the top 6. You got this battle that you're seeing on your screen now, Blake Reynolds riding along with him up to that 18 of Bobby Zalenski, and then Kane Cook battling with Michael Guest in front of them for position number 3. The top 2 have a little bit of separation in between each other. Keegan Leahy out by 1.5 seconds, and then Nathan Lyon is out by about 3/4 of a second in front of this battle right here. This one's been intriguing because these were 2 of those drivers that really benefited from that caution flag coming out on those green flag pit stops, Evan, and they've been able to hold their own up here. Michael Guest was creeping his way towards the front of the field. Kane Cook was there as well, but it really benefited those 2 drivers, and right now they're battling for a top 5 spot.
We did see Nick Ottinger pit from back of the pack. He was running at about the 20s, and is looking to try to split this run to the end of the race in half. Of course, haven't talked a ton about him this evening, and one of the drivers who just missed out on making the playoff cut. But Nick Ottinger, past race winner here at Darlington back in 2013. Ottinger actually sits at a pretty good position when you look at the history of this series as the 2nd most winning driver of all time with 14 trips to victory lane. Not sure tonight's going to be one of those, but it is worth noting that there are cars coming down pit road, and Novak now down pit road also. So I was about to preface that with maybe it's not your race leaders and don't put too much weight in it, but Novak will come down to the pit road, and that's a big player.
And I think that's a good call for Zach Novak, kind of stuck in the mid-pack before he made that decision. And I think where he was coming down early was a good call. But I think for a lot of these guys at the head of the field, we've seen drama a couple times today during green flag stops. Guys get out there on new tires, get stacked up in traffic. It causes a yellow as things are looking tight for everyone as we're watching the 2 of King Cook fighting with the 17 of Michael Guest down the back straightaway. Michael's going to go down to the apron, and I thought he may have been thinking about hitting pit road. I think he's just going to let that 88 get clear or just single file out as he's right up under the rear splitter. The rear spoiler of the 2 of King Cook as they head off of turn 4, and the 88 of Brad Davies will stay down to the bottom and let Ryan Lowe get out of the way, get by as well. So a pit strategy definitely going to be interesting here for your front runners. It may very well be here, Evan, the sort of race where if you make the early tire call, maybe being a little bit braver out near the head of the field, that might be what wins it as the 17 has a run.
And the 2 cars not going to fight him for it. So Michael Guest flashes the nose, and he'll get the spot off and into the corner. Guest making a move to 3rd position. Kane Cook waves him on through, and it will drop to 4th. Still a good running position. Both of these cars about 3 seconds off of the race leader, which is still Keegan Leahy. Now to the 2 to 1.6 seconds. So he's way out in front as Jimmy Mullis has been in a battle all night long. Next up between he and Ryan Luza, they have found each other once more. Luza gets the better end of this deal, and we'll see if Darlington can take advantage of it. He'll be the one diving to the inside in turn number 3 as he tries to split these playoff drivers apart.
Jarl drove it in deep down into turn number 3, but can't get it to stick and can't get that run, so Jimmy Mullis will get that momentum off of corner number 4 and go back to that position. But we've seen this before out of a couple of drivers, Evan. You really have to commit to it and drive that car in deep and maybe pull a little slide job. Hope you're clear off the corner and try to pick up that spot, and Jarl wasn't able to get that momentum on that inside line to clear the 46 of Mullis. But as you mentioned, the 46 of Mullis, the 53 of Ryan Luza, it's like they've had magnets in between each other. They started at the back of the field, worked their way back up, and as you look back, keeping a couple of eyes on some battles there. There's Kasey Kirwan to the inside of Ashton Crowder as they'll battle for a spot and then close in on the 24 of Bias ahead of him. So a couple of quick passes throughout this field as we close in on 40 laps to go in this one.
And Kirwan's one of the slower cars on this long run, so the 77 of Crowder going to go right back to his inside. 2 of the sharper-looking throwback cars in this exchange with that 14 machine running the outside. Kasey Kirwan, the 1989 Kyle Petty throwback. That's the 77 of Ashton Crowder, throwing it back to the boss man, Parker Kligerman. The 2013 car. Always fun when you can incorporate the team into it, and that's what we're seeing in his battle for position just outside of the top 10. It settles down for now with Kirwan being able to hang on, and we'll see if that lasts and how much longer these leaders are going to go. How do you want to stretch it out? We've seen some cars start to trickle down, but that mass influx hasn't happened yet, and we're inside of 40 laps to go in this race. Could your race leaders be just wanting to go to the distance?
Could very well be thinking of it here, as the gap's opened up absolutely enormous for your race leader. 2.5 seconds nearly is what that gap's out to for Keegan Leahy over Nathan Lyon. So if they can think about going the distance, maybe you're going to think so, as this fight between the 14 and the 77 is going to keep up between Kirwan and Crowder. Crowder's going to run the bottom. They have that car right out in front of them, the number 24 of Cody Bias, that Mode Motorsports machine. 3 of them starting to line up, and the 14 starting to open up a little bit of a gap, but still one of the closest fights we have out on track.
Alfalla drops out of the top 10 to come down to the pit lane. The number 8 car also down to pit road, so handful of drivers are starting to come in, but these battles up front continue on, and the 77 and the 14, they have their exchange. In fact, it looks like Kirwan doesn't want to be the one defending. He wants to go to the inside of the 24, so all of this goes on. Bobby Zalenski down to pit road in the 18. The 46 of Mullis going to follow him in as well. So those two cars down together at lap 146.
We'll see if Keegan Leahy decides to come in this time, and he's down below the hash marks. Looks like the 62 car will come down onto pit road and surrender the lead in behind. Nathan Lyon will take that lead, but he's been chased down these last couple laps. You see that Fastenal number 17 in behind. Michael Guess has made tracks to our second place driver, which is now the lead driver as they go down into corner number 1. So not sure if he'll be able to complete the pass for the lead on the racetrack prior to pit stops, but that 17 car, long run, he's been on the move. He might not be as fast as Keegan Leahy up in front, but he might have something here in this remaining run as they both come down into pit road.
So Lyon going to come in for the race lead. Michael Guest behind him. The 2 of Kane Cook from 3rd, all in line. Will temporarily put things in the hands of the 7 of Ryan Lowe, as your race leaders did indeed want service, but a little bit later into the run than they thought they may have, but they are all coming in to top off on fuel, get tires, and try to run this one to the end from Darlington. This final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bed Liner. The tough comes easy, as you're on board with the 7 car diving to pit road. Blake Reynolds next up, 30, back to the race lead.
So here we go. We're starting to see the drivers that are going to try to stick this thing out here for a long time and hope to catch a yellow. Remember, that's similar to what happened in the opening run of this race that we had. We had a handful of drivers after about 40 laps come down pit road, and in quick order, just due to all the traffic, we got a big pileup that ended up kicking off. So let's see if things can stay green for these guys that are coming down pit road and getting the new tires early, or if we get a caution. The 4 Nathan Lyon in some drama with the 17 and the 2. Look at that, 3 cars all fighting off of pit road, and here comes the 46 of Mullis. The 18 of Zilinski in there. They're 3 wide into 3, and this is about to heat up.
And that's a bunch of slow cars racing off to the pit lane to be the fast ones. 3 wide off of the corner. There's not enough room. Somehow we hang on. It was the 17 who was pinched out of space, but Michael Guest keeps it straight. Now 6 cars here under a blanketed 1 and 2. Mullis gets away from this. The 7 Kitty Guest going to end up second in this exchange. Then Lyon. Zalenski is the one who came flying up on a scene late. Kane Cook there. Ryan Luza also. A lot of these cars going to become race leaders once again, but for now the battle's tentatively outside of the top 20 as the 83 car is into the wall in front of them. They'll snake to the inside to get around, and it works for the time being. Close calls, not the first time, Tim. We've seen pit cycles lead to some close moments like that.
Yeah, we saw the cycle earlier have a little bit of a miscue, and that caution flag ended up coming out. Your leaders came down pit road, or at least your top 2 on that last cycle came down. Ashton Crowder scored as your leader that last time by with Chris Overland on his back bumper. While you have all this excitement going on in the middle of the pack, got a battle for the lead on our hands as Keegan Leahy moves to the inside to unlap himself. Chris Overland trying to go to the lead on Ashton Crowder down the back straightaway.
Yeah, that's the battle for the actual race lead between the 77 and the 16. They know that obviously this race could catch a yellow and has an opportunity to mix up like we saw earlier. The 75 of Phil Diaz had a scare that last time at a turn 2. It sent cars scattering. So everybody 10th on back is trying to find a spot in line, but this is the exchange for the race lead. Overland on the back of the 77, Randy. They're going to try to go as long as they can, try to be the second dose of that caution luck. And you might think, well, Keegan Leahy survived it the first time. He pitted on cycle. It didn't hurt him, but it hurt everybody else. Well, he's on the lead lap, so he's safe. And a caution flag now at 153.
And there it is. That's exactly what we were talking about. What caused this one of the 42 at Dylan Duvall. Actually, one of the cars that was risking this is going to have himself get caught up in an incident. And did this come with quicker lap traffic? Yes, it did. The 7 car of Ryan Lowe makes contact with the 42 at Dylan Duvall. I think Dylan trying to pinch a little bit too much there, knowing he's out there on the old tires, and a little bit of contact puts him in the wall. And now all these drivers that risked it and stayed out, they're going to end up in a great position here. And now a lot of these guys that have been out there for 5, 6, 7 laps here, Evan, what are they going to do on tires? If they've been out there for 10, 12, 13 laps, do you unlap yourself now, or do you come down in pit road and take tires now? Think you have to get back on the lead lap, but it's going to be difficult for those guys with 10, 15 laps under them.
It looks like Keegan Leahy in the 62 machine. That's going to be the question mark if he pits. Obviously, everybody else who hadn't pit is. So big gains for the second time tonight with a caution flag in the middle of green flag pit stops. So Crowder, Overland, Nichols, Nelson, Busa, they're your top 5. They're going to come down to get their 4 tires and then try to race this one out. But a lot of drivers will negate coming down pit road to stay out to get away by. Keegan Leahy is going to pit sim. So the best car all night, Leahy's going to be at best maybe P10 because he does want the tires so he doesn't cycle back by anybody, and he's going to be behind all these cars who stayed out. 2 for 2 tonight. That long run was the right call. Crowder gets his 4. Let's see if the 77 wins the race off of the pit lane. He does, just barely. Going to squeak this one out atop the 16 of Overland, who will be right there with him to fight for the race win.
And now you have some newer faces up here within the top 5. Guys like Jake Nichols. You saw him racing off of pit road in the 20 car. He's going to be up there battling for a win. There's Chris Overland once again. Right place, right time, and the 16 car is going to have an opportunity to race for a PEAK Antifreeze Series win here. We're also underneath 30 laps to go, and we've seen some of these restarts get kind of crazy. This race has taken another turn here. Keegan Leahy's going to have to dig deep. I like the strategy here, or the way it's played out, and we still have a lot of racing left to go, but that steady MD number 77 of Ashton Crowder in a good position right now. He's going to be the control car when we come back to green by the looks of it.
And you could pretty much toss out the 156 laps that we have completed prior to this, because again, it's a whole new race, and kind of funny that this exchange of service and the caution flag falling actually is reverse of what happened, to the likes of Crowder and Overland and some of these cars. They were the top 10 cars earlier, Randy, that had pitted on cycle, and the yellow flag caught them out. So now they think, all right, well, I don't want that to bite me twice. I'm going to stay out this time. It's not a move that really works if we stay green, because again, by staying out on old tires, you're losing 1.5 to 2 seconds every single time around to the cars who are pitting. But in a strategy gamble for the race win, it works out great now because they all got fresh tires and they're now back into positions that were running in earlier. Of course, Crowder started at 15th, first time he's been up front, and first time for Overland this close to the front of the field. But just shows you how the tides and the winds blow and change here at Darlington. Is we are going to have a completely different look inside of the final 30. And Keegan Leahy is on even tires as everybody else in front. I believe he will restart in 7th position. He has been the best car all night. Can he get that win to lock himself into the championship for finale? Or will we see one of these drivers play spoiler, maybe even a 3rd straight week of a new race winner in the series?
Could be really exciting. And I mean, like you said, the fact that this racetrack, these guys really risking it going the long run. I think this is one of the racetracks that's really inducive and really great opportunity to run the long run strategy because it's so difficult. Guys get out there on old tires and they're so much, on new tires, and they're so much quicker than those on old tires. that they're going to be just make up hand over fist in lap time. It's really back-to-back weeks, back-to-back races. We've had that happen. I think Bristol really worked for the long run because it was so likely to get that a caution might come out. And here at Darlington, we've seen the same thing. Compare that to some of the big mile-and-a-half racetracks we typically go to. The cars don't get strung out as much as here as much as they do those other tracks. And, of course, Indianapolis next week. That's going to be a place we want to come down early as we get ready to go back to green.
Yeah, look at this shot off of the pace car. There's only like 4 rows of cars that are there because those are your actual race leaders. Everybody else is going to get back to the lead lap courtesy of a wave around. So we'll have 31 for the restart, and the lights are going to go back on top of the pace car. But, I mean, you weren't seeing anything incorrect, Tim. Those were the 8 cars who were on the lead lap. So it looked like a small field. Now you see them all single file at the back in 3 to 4. We'll go from, that small maybe 10 or 8 lap cars on the lead lap back to 31 because everybody else stayed out and got the wave by. But I mean, that just goes to show you how many cars actually got caught out in this, that those 8 that were on the frame there down the back straightaway were actually the only ones that stayed on the lead lap. Now, everybody else hoping for another yellow, I would think, so they can actually end up getting some service.
And we'll see some of those names here up in front that we might not have seen all night long or haven't talked a whole lot about all night long. Look at that car on the outside of row number 3. How about Kasey Tucker having a great run here, trying to make something happen late in this race. Nick Shelton in behind. We've seen Nick run up front a little bit earlier on in this event. He's running in the top 10, and there's Zach Novak in the top 10 as well in the late stages of this one, trying to further his playoff position a little bit closer and maybe try to get a win to lock down a spot at Homestead. And at 62 right in front of him, Keegan Leahy, we documented he's been fast all night long. But I kind of like where that 16 is sitting. Chris Overland was close to a win a couple of weeks ago, Evan. We'll see if he can get one here tonight.
All these cars up towards the front of the field looking for a first crack at a win in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. And we're back underway. What a jump to the inside, though. Crowder gets as good of a jump as you could expect, but the real impressive drive was Benjamin Nelson, who followed him right through. He'll take second spot away from Chris Overland. Here's the run off of quarter 2, a small bobble, so he won't make the play for the race lead.
77 Crowder has the whole field stacking up. We got cars around in the background, down on the apron, heavy contact. We're going to be back to yellow. But who is that who went around in the background? A couple of them. The 46 of Jimmy Mullis, one of your playoff contenders. First one we've seen make heavy contact here today at Darlington.
He was running in 22nd on the restart. Coming into this one is one of the more formidable options in the championship, and the problem started in front of him. You watch the replay here, and the 46 is going to come up onto a scene that sees Davies into the outside wall. So many times tonight, Tim, have we seen a car get that fence at a 2. You see the 7 with the run, and I mean, the 88 just overcooked the corner, but there was nowhere for Jimmy Mullis to go, and then he got slammed in the back end by the 66 of Jarl Tien, and that punted him into the inside wall, and his car is absolutely destroyed. An atrocious playoff opener for Jimmy Mullis.
And Jimmy's going to have to dig deep in those next 2 rounds to try to make something happen, but tough break for that Federated Auto Parts 400, number 46, and he'll have a couple of rounds to try to get up here, and I'm sure he'll try to get some of that damage massaged and try to salvage what he can. Keep in mind, we still have over 20 laps to go. We're going to have a couple of restarts here, I'm sure, by the way this one is playing out. As you look at the replay again, riding on board with Jarl Tien, and Jarl had nowhere to go either. A little bit of damage to that race car as well. I'm sure they'll come down and try to get that thing massaged and knocked out. But, man, a tough break for Jimmy Mullis. He had an up-and-down night, was working his way back towards the front after a dismal qualifying effort, and now he finds himself behind the 8 ball with about 20 laps to go.
Your race leaders stay out. The one thing that onboard with Tien showed me, Randy, is he couldn't see the 88 getting into the wall because he could only see Mullis in front of him. But, I mean, even if you're Jimmy Mullis, we've talked about trying to anticipate where these issues come from. A lot of the time, if one car gets into the wall, you got the 2 or 3 behind stacked up into the wall as well. Just because you're running right behind somebody, you're kind of judging your points based on where they are because they're blocking up a majority of what you see out of the windshield there. But, I mean, when you have the 88 hit the wall like that, there's nowhere for you to go. And if you were, expecting and preparing to avoid a car getting into the wall in front of you every single lap, then you wouldn't be able to run within 10 car lengths of anybody because it could happen at any point, especially as we've seen tonight. down at that end of the racetrack. So it's a big hurt for Mullis, who came into tonight with 1 race win on the regular season. So he had those 3 bonus points, so tentatively was scored in 6th position. But again, you do have to be one of the top 4 out of these opening 3 weeks, and he'll be down towards the bottom of the ladder after this evening.
And he's trying to figure out what to do. I think the pit road closed on him there right at the last second. So we're going to see him end up back out there on the racetrack and not coming down pit road for repairs, unfortunately, there for Jimmy Mullis. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's one of the difficult things about running these NASCAR stock cars on an oval. I've noticed it's one thing that I know that a lot of people, when they first get into sim racing, it's deciphering the difference between oval racing and road racing. Road racing, in a lot of ways, you're out there racing the racetrack, and you're certainly doing that here at Darlington in these Cup cars, but you're just as much racing with the traffic around you as well, and losing kind of relying on the cars in front of you can sometimes get you into trouble when you have sights unseen and potentially cars having incidents sight unseen for you, maybe 2-3 cars up ahead of you. We saw that happen with the 66 there, but it's also at the same time following cars as they make contact with the outside wall. We've seen a couple times tonight a driver go into the outside wall and the driver behind him just follow them into it as they get tight.
And expecting the lights to go out on top of the pace car this time by. You can tell the field's ready to go because they're already doubled up and they haven't even been given the cue to do so. This time, there you go, lights out on top of the iRacing.com pace car. We're ready to rock and roll, and that onboard shot with Matt Boosa. Not all that long ago, Tim, that car was spun on the back straightaway. The little bit of damage may hurt him a bit here, but Matt Boosa, in fact, running into 4th position, the highest running car in the field with a race win in this series, coming last season at Atlanta. The 3 in front of him, Crowder, Nelson, Overland, looking for first career wins. Talk about a high-pressure situation with a restart next time by with 19 laps to go.
Yeah, trying to hang on here for the most part, I would believe, with the 5 of Matt Boosa, but we've seen some of these races play out with some multiple cautions at the end, but now with green-white checkers, going to be hard for Matt Boosa to hold on there, but we'll see what happens as we work forward here with 20 laps to go in this race from Darlington. But those top 2, you better believe they're not in the playoff hunt, but as you mentioned, very hungry for a victory and trying to get that first win. And Chris Overland in that number 16, he's tried hard. I'm sure James Gutta is up on his chair right now cheering on that number 16 as we get ready for green.
He's off and away. It is a very early jump for the 77 car, so Crowder will rocket out to the race lead with 19 laps to go at Darlington. The 16 of Overland, he'll try to step up on the inside line. Side by side with him and Ben Nelson. They'll go 2 by 2 through the corner with the 16 car winning out on the inside. Overland the second. Now he'll go to the bottom of the racetrack. Chris Overland wants to go to the race lead at Darlington. He'll go all the way down in 3. It's not going to work, and Crowder topside ring and hangs on and way tight off.
Oh, they're piling up behind. Huge pile up behind. That's going to be half the field through 3 and 4. The 21 of Alfalla is in that wreck, and Nick Ottinger's in it. I haven't seen any, but I'd be shocked if we don't have some blue spoilers involved in this one.
Ryan Luza notably is at the start of this wreck. There was a big checkup, and I believe the 79 is actually where the problem starts. That's Nichols who gets up and into the outside wall, and it's all those playoff cars behind him. Shelton got loosened up and into the fence here. You'll see that happen towards the front of the screen, and then it's all these playoff cars here. Luza, some of the other drivers, the 30 right there as well. They've got nowhere to go, and when we caught this one out of 4, you saw the 21 because Alfalla was up and into the air. Ryan Luza, all 4 tires off the ground at one point, and a ton of championship implications as it just keeps pouring on our playoff drivers late.
Yeah, it looks like Cody Bias may have got the bumper a little bit of Shelton to try to spring that one off there, but a lot of damaged race cars as you ride on board once again with the Steady MD number 99 of Clampett, and as he's got a little bit of damage, we'll back it up here and see what happens. And there's Cody Bias right ahead of him, so this one's going to be a really good shot, Evan, of what happened and what transpired as Cody Bias and that Mode Motorsports number 24 goes to the outside.
And the way that, again, you're just stacked up like this off for the restart, nothing you can do. And small bit of contact in the quarter. If you're closing in on the car in front of you, you can't lift because you're going to hit in the back end. So you just hope that it all works, but you'll see the contact on the outside right there. The 79 go loose. He snaps back up the hill, and then it is chaos behind them as the big one strikes at Darlington. And I was going to note, coming to the restart there, Keegan Leahy, your highest running playoff driver, scored in 6th position right now. So it was already a big shakeup of the points with your playoff drivers, but we just saw the issue not that long ago for Mullis, and at least 3 more playoff drivers involved in that one. Big implications in the championship here compared to, say, if this race ended 40 laps ago. At that point, most of your race leaders were doing a good job, but an untimely yellow, couple of wrecks off for the restarts, and it is a whole new look. Still, with a couple of restarts, I feel like left in this one.
As they continue to, we look at some more replays here. Nick Ottinger, another one of those, Evan, that was caught on the outside of this one and ended up getting swept up in it. There's the 30 of Blake Reynolds, the 53 of Ryan Luza. All really good race cars tore up here in this one, and really nowhere to go. Once something happens, it happens really quickly here at Darlington as Ottinger's trying to follow that 99 to clamp it through.
And this onboard shot again gives you the best look, and there's the bobble. The 24 might have gotten a piece, and Nick Ottinger took quite a lick on the right-hand side there, tried to fight through it, but just too much going on, and maybe avoided another shot there with the car ringing about on the inside. Who was that squeeze? I think that was Hurst, who barely found his way through it. Of course, everybody wants to get back going as soon as they can. At least a dozen cars are now on pit road trying to get repairs as this race continues to surprise us late in this playoff opener. Another factor, of course, talking about what's on the line for these drivers running up front. Jake Nichols now takes over the number 4 position on the racetrack, having just gotten around Busso. So now everybody top 4, those first 2 rows, all looking for first career wins in this series as the lights go on top of the pace car. That's a big storyline, don't get me wrong, but I think it is compounded by the fact, Randy, that a win by any driver who's not in the playoffs, of course, takes a win in your in guarantee away. If any non-playoff driver wins tonight at Darlington, we know that at least 2 spots would be open into Homestead based on points.
And you have to wonder how aggressive is that 62 going to be, knowing that he's going to be restarting here 6th outside of row 3. Is he going to push this and try to snag one of those early Homestead spots, or does he know that most of his playoff contenders have had bad luck and just run here quiet and log a good day here and log good points? Going to be interesting to see as we get ready to go green. Of course, the 6 of Novak right behind him as well.
3 playoff drivers were involved in that last accident. Your highest runner of them is now 62 of Keegan Leahy, who's had a pretty good night. He's been the best car this evening, but he is P6 for another late race restart. The field's in the hands of Ashton Crowder. Waited a little bit longer this time, but it is another good jump for the steady MD Toyota. Green flag back in the air, 14 more laps to go. Watch the gap, though. We know the field's going to get a run on him, so turn 2 going to be the place to watch as here comes Overland rocketing around on the inside. He'll take second away from Nelson, but he can't clear him. The 83 car, 33 rather, going to fight back.
And there's that 16. He's got the hole open to the inside. Chris Overland trying to bring the Wood brothers to the front at Darlington. The 77 of Ashton Crowder holding that outside line. It gets tight here off of corner number 4. And oh, by the way, 2 playoff drivers side by side and now nose to tail as Novak tucks in behind the 62 of Keegan Leahy. Top 2 on that outside line. Crowder and Nelson. The battle is for third as that 20 of Nichols tries to take it away from the 16 of Overland. Here comes the train on the outside with the 62.
And the 62 machine trying to get the push from the 6, but Leahy's blocked in. He's got nowhere to go as he tries to make the pass on Overland. He'll do it at a turn 4, so you could move him up and into what I think is going to be 5th position in line. The 6 of Novak also clears as we got a lot of cars making some late dives into the corner down to turn number 1, feeling the pressure, but let's look up in the battle for the race lead. Here comes Ben Nelson closing the gap to Ashton Crowder. He got a run, but he'll check up. And look at the 6 car, Zach Novak with a dive to the inside. He'll try to get around Leahy and Nichols in one swoop, but it doesn't work.
You may have seen a similar car, but Jake Nichols, what a run for him, both him and Ashton Crowder. Really putting in great efforts for their team, but 5, 6, 7 cars all fighting for the race lead. They single file back out after Novak's able to find an opening to get back up into the top groove off of turn 2. and down the back straightaway again. Is anyone gonna apply pressure down to the inside this time? No, everyone's gonna keep it up top and just sling this thing around. Look at the train of cars we have for the race lead. Top 7, top 8 cars all lined up nose to tail, heading down the front straightaway. The first one opening up the gap, your race leader of Ashton Crowder. We're inside 10 to go.
10 laps to go that time by Nelson. I wonder if he's afraid to make the move to the inside. The last couple of cars that have gone low and haven't completed the pass have then had that spot on the outside line fill in, and they have gone freight trained by cars making a run up against the fence. Side by side further back. That's the 5 of Matt Busa. Really the only car on the inside here. Going to get passed by Clampett, and now the 6 car of Novak again to the inside line. He's not afraid. These are your top 2 running playoff drivers going at it, and Leahy's able to make the top stick.
Novak's been able to get to the inside and drive it down deep into the corner, but it hasn't been able to stick. Now the 62 of Leahy goes to the inside, almost opened that door that time for the 6 of Zach Novak. Here comes Corey Vincent to the inside. Vincent and the Renegades, number 27, having a great run here late. Busa trying to follow him along to the inside. This is the battle for 4th on back as they dive it into 1.
It's been an impressive drive off of the restart for both Leahy and Novak to get up here to 4th and 5th position. They were running against 6th position on back, so they've been able to get around the likes of Overland and Vincent. They're still fighting with each other, though. The 6 car really wanting to make this pass for 4th on track. He'll try to get into 3, drives it in hard. He'll slot up in front of the 62. Leahy wants to go down to the inside, but what a move. Picture perfect slide job. Keegan Leahy going to drop a spot, and it is the 6 of Zach Novak down to P4. He's now the highest running playoff driver.
These guys not really giving each other an inch with the championship implications they're going to have to work with. And now it's got to be heads down. Can they maybe start working their way forward and catch the likes of Jake Nichols or Ben Nelson at the head of the field? The 33 of Ben Nelson, I made a mistake through 3 and 4 that time. That opens up a gap for the 77 of Ashton Crowder. They're going to come across the stripe, and it's going to be 4/10 of a second. The gap for the 77 of Ashton Crowder is we're getting set possibly to make it 3 weeks in a row with the first-time winner in this championship.
And I know that if you look back historically, Tim, there's no way that that's going to be a record, because obviously the first couple of years they were all new names, but it's got to be quite some time since we've seen a possibility of 3 different first-time winners in a row, and Ashton Crowder has the distance. The interval this time by between your race leader and Ben Nelson, as we see Novak wanting to challenge Nichols for 3rd, is a half a second. It's Ashton Crowder's race to lose, but these are the most critical laps of his sim racing career. Can he wither the pressure and keep it strong at Darlington?
Competition in this series has been phenomenal. There goes Novak back to the inside of Nichols. He'll look to pick up position number 3, and I think he'll have it here in the middle of 3 and 4. Now, can he get by the 33 of Ben Nelson? I think without a caution, Novak may run out of time to get up to your leader, Ashton Crowder, but the competition in this series as of late has been phenomenal. We see it with the different winners in victory lane. The steady MD, number 77, holding steady up in front. He's got to hope this thing stays green to the end to try to pick up his first career victory.
And the only way to ensure that is the first that he wants to see is the white flag. Still a chance that incident could push us into overtime. We've had some pretty exciting finishes, late restarts here at Darlington in the past. That time by, he took 3 laps to go. Here at the track, too tough to tame. The gap grows, and the fight's going to be on for 2nd position. Zach Novak, the fastest car on the racetrack. He may have time to get 2nd, but I don't think he's going to have time to go all the way to the race lead. To the inside of Nelson, another spot in the pocket. Novak all the way up now to P2.
Popsicle sticks in the air this time. They work down the front straightaway. Novak is going to have to somehow rein in nearly an 0.8 of a second margin in towards 1 and 2. The 77 of Ashton Crowder looking clean as he works down the back straightaway, and then looking in towards 3 and 4. He'll see the white time, and I think we're setting up to see a very happy Parker Kligerman on NB tomorrow.
Cody Bias gets way out of the way. There's some lap traffic further up the road, but I don't think it is going to be a factor. It is clean racetrack for the 77 of Ashton Crowder. White flag in the air. Final time at Darlington, a night that was dominated much by the talk of the playoffs, how critical a win could be for a championship hopeful, and Ashton Crowder going to be the one to steal the show. It'll be a 3rd week in a row if he can hang on in 3 to 4. Then we've got a first-time winner, Ashton Crowder, final time at turn 4 to his first win in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. He's got it tonight at Darlington.
That's a big win for that Burton Kligerman Esports team. The steady MD number 77 going to ride it to victory lane and get congratulations here from Ben Nelson. I think if you were the 6th of Zach Novak, you need it. I want to say 5 more laps, Evan, but he might have only needed 2 or 3 because you get up to the back bumper and, try to disturb that air a little bit. But Zach Novak's got to be happy with position number 2. And here's the thing. You mentioned it earlier. It opens up one more spot for points on the playoffs going into Homestead. Zach Novak set himself up pretty good here, but it's Ashton Crowder's night. He's going to celebrate here on the front straightaway, another first-time winner here at Darlington.
Car might look a little bit more beat up than it actually was. You can see the respect his competitors have for him as they all came up to congratulate him. But Ashton Crowder celebrates for the first time as a winner of iRacing's top level. A winner in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. It was Garrett Lowe 4 weeks ago at Michigan International Speedway that got his first. Just a week ago, Kasey Kirwan with his first career win. And this time it is Ashton Crowder to be the time to grab his first career checkered flag. And you mentioned it, Randy, there, coming to the white flag. The win for Burton Kligerman Esports. That driver, the number 77 machine, doing that team proud.
Team that's shown so much support to this championship. I'm happy for that organization, and I'm happy for Ashton Crowder as well to be the driver who pulls that in. Logan Clampett, of course, a talent in his own right, but I think Ashton, this is going to, definitely put himself in a strong mindset, both for this year and going in towards next year as well for him, as we have your post-race results coming at you now.
Logan Clampett yet to go to victory lane, which means that the win tonight for Ashton Crowder, the first win for Burton Kligerman Esports in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Let's look at your Race Spot TV full race results. It's Crowder to victory lane. Final margin of victory, half a second. Novak, just not enough time at the end. Comes home runner-up. But a great night for him at points. In regards to the championship, Benjamin Nelson comes home third, with Nichols fourth, and Keegan Leahy rounding out your top 5. We will get comments from them all in just a few moments. Chris Overland had another opportunity for the race win. It's been a great couple of weeks for the 16 team. He ends up P6 when it's all said and done. Corey Vincent finishes in 7th position. Matt Busa comes home at 8th with Logan Clampett at 9th, and Eric J. Smith rounding out your top 10.
We get a couple of playoff drivers bookending this next page. It's Michael Conti in 11th, 12th is Phil Diaz, Nick Ottinger 13th, Kasey Kirwan 14th. Kane Cook had such a great run early on that first green flag run, comes home in 15th. Christian Challinor in 16th, Casey Tucker 17th, Ryan Lowe in 18th, Adam Benefiel up and down night finishes in 19th, and Garrett Lowe, you want to talk about a roller coaster ride here at Darlington, he's going to finish in 20th.
And you talked about playoff drivers in that last set of 10. There's more of them down here. Bobby Zilinski in 21st. Jarl T in 22nd. Ryan Luza, a driver we talked about all night, going from 32nd up near the top 5. Gets caught up in an incident. He ends up 23rd. Blake Reynolds, 24th. Nathan Lyon again ends up 25th after late in this race being in a position to potentially lead and win. 26th, Jimmy Mullis. Dylan Duvall in 27th. Taylor Hurst in 28th. He was strong in the early goings of this race as well, with Michael Gariglia and Brad Davies rounding out your top 30.
A couple more cars a lap down, but actually still in the battles per se. Cody Bias ends up 31st. Michael Guess and Logan Kress were both down 3 and 32nd and 33rd. But when it dripped down this low, these cars pretty much out of it when it was all said and done. Nicholas Shelton gets 34th, and Chris Shearer 35th. Ray Alfalla 36th position. Brian Schoenberg 37th. Brendan Cattell 38th. Malik Gray 39th, and Timmy Hill in 40th position. All the way at the back, that is a complete look top to bottom at your Race Spot TV full race results. Let's head down to Darlington Raceway Victory Lane, where we are caught up with the driver of the number 77 machine, a first-time winner in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Ashton, congratulations on the win, bringing it home tonight for Burton Kligerman Esports.
Thank you so much, Evan. I'm sorry, I'm just flooded with emotion. I can barely talk. Just everybody, Burton Kligerman Esports has worked so hard, and I've made so many mistakes this year and been really down on myself, and I didn't think that I was gonna get any sort of good finish, really, and I got an 8th place last week, and then obviously a win this week, and I can't believe it, honestly.
Tonight was such a roller coaster for everybody because we started off with a couple of green flag runs. It looked like we had a pretty set amount of drivers who, top 10 cars who had a shot. But not only on one occasion, but on two occasions, a caution flag in the middle of pit stops is what cycled up the running order. Midway through, we showed that even if that could happen in a couple of cars for the back of the pack get up front, they've got speed. Next thing you know, you're up front late at Darlington, and you took advantage of it. What was that restart like, and how were those final 5 laps seeing the cars behind you get further and further away?
Yeah, our pit strategy, I kept asking my pseudo crew chiefs, Greg McKinney, and the boys, and I kept asking them, sorry, I'm almost speechless here. I kept asking them, should I go long? Should I go long? And honestly, I didn't trust the call because I thought I was going to be 35th when it rolled out. I'm like, man, I can't do that with points. And sure enough, it worked out. And yeah, we got the lead there, and work with Ben Nelson, and what a job he did. Honestly, I can't thank him enough for working with me on the restarts. I put my virtual hand out the window to try to help him out on getting a good jump, and we just tried to say 1-2 as much as we could, and I tried to pull away on the restarts. And yeah, the dirty air was really harsh for our car. I got to look at that, evaluate that, but the car in clean air is just honestly unbelievable. I'm sorry, I'm just completely speechless right now.
Well, I'll tell you what, you picked a fun week to get the job done with that number 77 machine headed to victory lane tonight with the throwback to the boss man's car back from 2013, of course, with the iteration and the institution of these teams into the series this year. It's been so much fun, and to have, Burton Kligerman on board the car, two of the most, I think, involved guys from a team owner's aspect. I know that you've wanted to get to this point, but to finally be able to say you're a winner on sim racing's biggest stage, what does it mean to you?
It honestly means the world. It really validates all the work that I've put into this. I've had some moments this year where honestly I thought it wasn't worth it anymore and that I should, quit, take a break and what have you. And yeah, it validates it. And I just want to say thank you to Parker, Jeff Burton, just everyone for taking a chance, I feel like, on me. I know I finished P3 in pro points, but not being in peak before, it was a big risk, and I can't thank everybody enough for taking that risk on me and allowing me to drive their cars for them.
You also just happen to play spoiler tonight, and you take a important race win away from what ends up being Zach Novak, who comes home second behind you. A race win for him could have advanced him straight into Homestead. There are still a couple of weeks left in this season. What's the objective left for you and teammate Logan DeClampett to get here before we're said and done this year?
That's a tough one. It'd be cliche to say wins, but just consistent finishes, honestly. I was so hungry to get a win this year, or just have a decent finish, a top 5 really, or maybe even a top 10. I got that last week, and I got the win this week. So just consistent finishes and just constant progressing on our race cars and getting them faster and faster in traffic, because we started this year really rock bottom. When the new package came out and got running on that, we were so far off. I think I ran in last place at Auto Club, which is our first race on this package, and just Christian Challinor and Dave Siltman and Tanner Tellerico and just Seth DeMerchant, Marcus Ruckman, everybody that has put time into this. It's absolutely unbelievable. So I'm just really, really happy to get them a good result.
I'm certain you have some celebrating to get to, Ashton, so we will we'll let you free here and go back to celebrate. Congratulations once more. Again, I agree with you to mention the validity. It's good to see you at Victory Lane. So again, congratulations. We appreciate your time, and we'll see when we see that 77 car back up front again.
Thank you, and huge shout out to Steady MD as well. Can't forget them.
A lot of TV time for that Steady MD Toyota. Ashton Crowder, your race winner tonight in the playoff opener from the virtual Darlington Raceway. You want to talk about playoffs? Zach Novak's going to leave out of tonight feeling pretty good, Tim. He comes home in second position, but maybe if he had 5 or 10 laps more, it could have been a different story.
Yeah, Zach Novak probably needed about 5 laps or so to get up here and battle with Ashton Crowder for the win here in this race at Darlington. But Zach, what more did you need? Did you need 5 or 10 more laps? I know the restart was a little bit hairy battling with you and Keegan Leahy. What else more did you need out of this 6 car?
I think you said it. I just needed more time. The the car was a rocket ship all night. We had a lot of setbacks. We got dealt a very bad hand of cards, as my spotter Brandon Coppinger liked to say. So to come back and finish second, I feel like we had a chance at that win if we could have just carved through that traffic a little bit quicker. But nonetheless, man, coming back and finishing second like that, that's huge for the playoffs and the momentum going into Indy.
Set us up on this playoff run, because now you're going to take that playoff lead, and Ashton Crowder wins tonight, so there's one less driver that's going to be winning. You're in. Do you feel a little more comfortable after this evening with 2 races to go before we hit Homestead?
Oh, definitely. Indy's been one of my best tracks in this series, and I feel really confident we'll show up with a good car there once again and have a chance to win that thing. And I think at the Roval, for me, if I don't win Indy, it's just going to be about surviving and not wrecking myself and just making sure I can get a decent finish. So, I mean, the goal is to go out and win Indy next week and lock ourselves in. But if we can't do that, this really, really helps with the points cushion and making sure we have a really good shot at Homestead. So.
You talked about this car being really good, this team being really good at Indy. What do the fans expect out of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the package that we have going into that event?
I think it's going to be a lot like Pocono. I think we're going to be able to draft and make a lot of crazy moves in the beginning laps on the restarts, but come 10, 20 laps into the run, I think it'll spread out pretty good. So I'm hoping that's the case at least, because Pocono was a lot of fun that way, and I think if we have the ability to spread out at Indy, it'll be a little bit more driver-based.
You dug deep here this evening. Beautiful looking 6 car for Oscar Mayer. Who else is on this race car that helps you get to the racetrack each week?
Yeah, Tim, I just really want to thank Roush Fenway Racing and all their supporters, Oscar Mayer, Velveeta, Performance Plus Motor Oil, Acorns, Acronis, who else am I forgetting? Wyndham Rewards, everybody that really, really helps support the 6 team in real life, and I'm so glad to represent their colors here as well, and it's really, really cool to get them good finishes. I want to thank all my guys at Lockdown Racing for their awesome work on the car this week. We put a lot of time into this thing, and considering it was only 1 week in between races, we got it set up pretty fast. So big thanks to them. I also want to thank the eSport Racing Group, Chris Roberts, Corey Vincent, all of them. Also want to give a big shout out to Briar Lepad and Alan Carlton. Their birthdays are today, so I'm glad to get a good run for them on their birthday. So all in all, though, I also just want to thank my family for all that they do and supporting me. They were really ecstatic coming in here after that comeback. So big thanks to everybody that helps out and supports me, and I'm just pumped after this. This was a huge comeback, and we needed that.
Zach Novak digs deep, comes home with a second-place position, top finishing playoff driver here this evening. And Randy, I know you've caught up with another driver that's had a really good run here this evening. Ben Nelson comes home with a top 5 run.
Yeah, Ben Nelson, great run for him, putting himself in third in that number 33 car. People with OCD are going to rejoice just for that. But Ben, what a run for you there late. How did it feel knowing that you were in a great position starting up near the head of the field on that late race? And you had a bunch of guys trying to, fight for their first win in this championship in their career, and you had a bunch of playoff drivers hounding down on you guys from about 5th, 6th, 7th on back on that restart. What was the pressure like, trying to keep the pressure up with those in front of you and fight for the win while keeping those quicker drivers in the background behind you that are fighting for 40K?
Yeah, I mean, this is an unreal dream of mine to even be interviewed by you guys, but I don't know, we were in a great position. We got very lucky there with that caution. It happened earlier in the race, and we thought we might try it, and it definitely worked out. I was just so happy for Ashton that he got his first win, and it was a lot of pressure, that's for sure. We weren't quite as quick as those other guys behind us, but I didn't really have anything for Ashton either. But I just had to hold on. I had to let Novak go there, as a little bit worried about making some mistakes and giving up a top 3. I really didn't want to do that, so I really had to maintain. That's really all I needed to do on those last few restarts.
We head out to Indianapolis in a couple of weeks' time, and of course we saw sort of a preview of what that might be like when we went to Pocono just a handful of weeks ago. That was at the end of July. Do you think it's going to be a pretty similar racetrack to Pocono in the way it races, or do you think the fact that we have 4 flatter corners that are all more or less the same is going to change the way that racetrack races compared to what we saw at Pocono, with, of course, 1 and 3 being so different for one another?
Yeah, I mean, Pocono and Indy kind of has some similarities, but they're not like any other track, that's for sure. They're their own beasts. I like both of them, and we ran really well at Pocono, so I'm looking forward to Indy for sure.
Well, thanks for joining us, Ben, and congratulations on another strong finish on board that number 33. It's been a lot of fun watching you this season, and before we let you go, who gets it done for everyone involved with that number 33 Team Dillon Esports car?
Well, first of all, I got to give a shout out to Austin Dillon and everybody back at Team Dillon Esports and Richard Childress Racing. This is an unreal opportunity that they've given all of us, but in my case, I just can't thank them enough for everything they've done for me. And my team, I went to Siltman Crowder Racing not long ago, and they've helped me tremendously, just with my racecraft, with setups, everything. So I can't thank everybody enough involved. All my friends that are watching right now, everybody that's tuned in, that I was talking, hey, watch this race. Hey, watch this race. I actually got something done. Finally. I thank everybody for supporting me, and I just can't thank them enough. Thank you.
There he was, your third-place finisher tonight, Ben Nelson, and we're going to toss it back over to Evan, and he has stood by with a special guest.
Yeah, we've still got more of our top finishers to get to, but we mentioned Ashton Crowder putting the Burton Kligerman Esports Toyota in victory lane, and we actually got the boss man, Parker Kligerman, on the radio with us. Parker, how about it, seeing that 77 car in victory lane?
Woo! That's all I can say. It's awesome. So proud of Ashton. I know he puts his heart and soul into this series. He just spends so much time working on setups and trying to make those cars the best he can be. And I know he's been through some rough patches this season, but, we drafted him knowing that he could pull off something like he did tonight. And he put in an impeccable drive. That car looked very clean at the end for being at Darlington and got it into victory lane. That was so cool. Having Steady MD on board, that was big. We just got that sponsor a couple weeks ago, and they've been big supporters of what's happening here in esports and in iRacing. So it's been cool to watch this series grow, but it's very cool and very personally gratifying to see a car with my name on there somewhere to go out there and win. That was awesome.
Yeah, not to mention the throwback paint scheme on it as well, but of course you and Jeff teamed up to be a part of this 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Ashton obviously getting the team into victory lane for the first time tonight. Another very popular driver in Logan Clampett in the stable as well. Still got a couple of races left for your guys to make some noise before we're done this year.
Yeah, I don't know. Jeff Burton hasn't texted me yet, so he might be asleep. I'm going to have to wake him up, call him here any second, but when I get done with you guys. But Ashton Crowder, Logan Clampett, they've done a great job for us all season. I know it's not what they exactly wanted in terms of being able to make the playoffs, but in terms of representing this team, representing the series, representing our sponsors, they've done an excellent job and really enjoyed it. And I think, it's just, as I said before, it's been very cool to see how this series has grown, to see how the drivers have really stepped up. We've got the All-Star race coming up on Thursday, so I'll be racing against all these guys, which will be interesting to say the least, considering I didn't do that well at Iowa, so I got to get practicing tomorrow. But I might celebrate a little bit here tonight, so it'll be tough to practice.
Hey, you guys are going to Rockingham. Everybody can catch that one this Thursday. It's a 5 o'clock Eastern time start on NBCSN with NASCAR America. And not only will you be carrying the flag for the team, Jeff will be in studio as well, but, Ashton and Logan will be out on the racetrack as well. Darlington, you want to talk about historic racetracks, is one that is thankfully still on the calendar, but going to race it at Rockingham this Thursday as we toss you back behind the simulator. What are you expecting in that one?
Yeah, I think it's our own version of the throwback, right? That was the cool thing we did at the first NBCSN All-Star race on NASCAR America. You can watch it on tomorrow or Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time on NBCSN. But, we went to Iowa in Cup cars, which people have always wondered about. So it was a lot of fun. Of course, the Peak Series drivers made me look a little silly, but I kind of expected that. And I'm not expecting much different going into Rockingham other than I at least know what to expect and think I can get a little bit more practice in this time. So I'm hoping to be a little better, but I think they'll definitely show me what's up and sort of show me the way in a lot of ways. I'm sure AJ Allmendinger will make fun of me just as much as the first time. But I'm ready to be embarrassed. And as I said, I think I won't get as much practice tomorrow as I was hoping, because I think I'm going to celebrate a little bit tonight on Ashton's win.
It's certainly fair enough. I know that the one-off events and that iRacing NASCAR All-Star Race is going to be a lot of fun. The bragging rights are always fun, but you've got a car now that is a winner in the top level of oval sim racing. So, Parker, thanks for jumping in here and chatting with us. And again, congratulations to you, Jeff, and the team on Ashton to find it victory lane tonight.
Absolutely, and thank you guys all you do for the broadcast. Excellent broadcast all season long. Looking forward to watching the rest of the season and crowning champion at the end of this year. And best of luck to all the other drivers in the playoffs.
That's his car at victory lane tonight. Parker Kligerman jumping into the booth here and chatting with us. T-Motor, co-owner of Burton Kligerman Esports, with Ashton Crowder bringing that number 77 Toyota into victory lane tonight. Continuing on with post-race festivities, Jake Nichols gets a great result for the number 20 car, his 4th position tonight, and Tim's caught up with him.
It's the first top 5 run of the season for the 20 car at Jake Nichols, and Jake came at a really good time here at Darlington. Talk to us about your race here tonight and getting to a top 5 run here. It's an exciting run for this number 20, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Our car was, I felt like we had a better car than what we were showing all race. So we just kept getting mired back in traffic and not getting good luck on restarts. Just kept getting forced back and having to make our way back up. But all year we've had such bad luck with cautions happening at the wrong time, and I didn't really have much to lose there. I knew I had a good car, just needed track position, and thankfully, we got really lucky with a caution at the right time to get us that track position we needed, and man, we made the most of it. Our TRD Camry was so good tonight, and I felt like once we got up there, we could really show it, and I don't think I had anything for Zach and Ashton there, even Ben, that some of those guys were really fast, and we just kept getting tight too early in the run. Like, I'd have so much grip entry, and then just tight, like right to the wall, center off, and either way, we made the most out of it. I'm glad to finally have a top 5 here. We've had some bad luck recently, but thankfully this JD Gibbs throwback really did well for us, and everything worked out for us tonight.
You're outside of the playoff picture, but you're still involved in the top 20 picture to lock yourself into this series for next year, sitting 13th in points unofficially after this evening. Talk about the outlook for these next 3 races. What would you be happy with when we're all said and done when we throw the checker flag at Homestead?
Staying in the series is big. When I ran some of the races in 2017, I wasn't able to finish top 20, but it's definitely huge for me this year. That was my main goal. Of course, you want to try to go for the title, but overall, I just want to make sure I'm in the series for more than just a year. I just want to keep going. So just staying smart all year has been key for me, and hopefully, I think Indy will go well for us. Same with the Roval. I'm really looking forward to that in a couple weeks. That should honestly be a great race, and hopefully leaving Homestead we're good enough. Hopefully entering Homestead we're good enough in the top 20 that we don't have to worry about it. I'd like to go into that race and just get everything I can, and if bad things happen, it's whatever. If we do good, we do good. But yeah, it's been crazy so far this season. We try to make the most out of it. Our Camrys have been really good. Just not good enough to win. We've gotten close though. I think we'll be there soon. So definitely look out for this 20 car. These last few races, I think we're gonna be there. That's for sure.
When we talked to Zach Novak, he was really confident about his setup at the Indianapolis Motors. You said the car would run good. How confident are you in this TRD number 20 heading forward into the next round?
With how it ran tonight, I think a top 10 is definitely manageable. Who knows going into it, because you never know what's going to happen during these races with just a random caution. It could force you back 15 spots, but it could force you up 15. So either way, I'm looking forward to that. I think we'll have a good piece under us with this Camry. Our Joe Gibbs Racing Camrys have been good all year. We've been getting closer and closer lately too. They're getting good finishes with the top 10 at Pocono, and ran up front until we got involved in an incident at Michigan. So we're definitely picking up the pace. I definitely expect to be up front, or at least close to it, at Indy, and looking forward at the Roval and Homestead as well.
I know you got a lot of great marketing partners on this Joe Gibbs Racing entry. Who's on this car and who helps you get to the racetrack every week?
Yeah, of course, Toyota Racing Development, everyone at Joe Gibbs Racing, and Interstate Batteries for all the support this year. It's been it's been awesome to be able to represent them and have their support ongoing, and hopefully we can bring that to next year if we maintain our peak license here and stay in the series. But all the guys at Slip Angle as well, they've worked their butts off all year, and I can't thank them enough for all the help. It's always been fun racing with them and racing each other hard. Same with everyone in the field tonight. It's hard. Like, some of these guys race really hard, and you gotta give them what they give you back. And, like, when they race you hard, you gotta race them harder. It's just how it is, and it's fun. We've stayed out of trouble most of the year. Haven't really caused anything wreck-wise yet, so can't thank these guys enough, man. It's been fun. It's been a good year for us so far here at Toyota, and hopefully looking forward we can keep these TRD Camrys up front.
That's Jake Nichols coming home with position number 4. Randy, momentum is huge in this sport. Keep an eye on this 20 in the final couple of rounds of this series. But I believe you caught up with the driver who led a ton of laps here this evening, the 62 car, Keegan Leahy.
Yeah, driver, you definitely need some momentum. One of our playoff contenders in Keegan. I hate to say it, but even though you finished well tonight, momentum overall, I think not the way you would like it. The last 3 races, Michigan, you're by far the dominant car. You get taken out in a late race caution. That costs you big in the points. Last time out at Bristol, you were one of the dominant cars. You get caught out by pit strategy. That cost you a lot of points. And here today, similar situation. You were pretty much the quickest car out there on the racetrack. Pit cycles just kind of trolled you all night, to be honest. Every time you were sort of opening up a gap, green pit road cycles happen. You'd be one of the first handful of cars to come down pit road, maybe in the first dozen or so. And then you get caught up in the yellow. What's the frustration like? What's the mindset like for you guys at the moment, knowing that you're sort of just been on the wrong side of luck the last 3 weeks out?
Yeah, Randy, I don't believe in luck. You make your own luck, right? And I picked the best pit strategy, but not necessarily the safest pit strategy. And I've done that the last 3 weeks, or last 3 races, and it's cost me, but I can't play a super defensive strategy and then finish 10th or 5th or something. I have to go for these wins. Wins matter so much in this series, and that's what I've been going for. That's my philosophy all year, and it's got me to this point. I'm second in points. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I just gotta hope luck falls my way these next few races.
What's the mindset for you coming out of this race? You finished second of the playoff drivers. Zach Novak, of course, finishes second. You finish here in 5th. Next driver is Michael Connie outside of the top 10, and then there's a couple of them that just had absolutely horrible nights. Jimmy Mullis is in that list of drivers, finished down in that 26th position. A couple others as well, definitely not on the right side of luck that they would have liked for the first playoff round. Blake Reynolds down there near there, Ryan Luza as well in 23rd. So how does that feel, knowing that even though you maybe finished a few spots behind where maybe you should have been or could have been, how does it, what's the mindset as well, knowing that so many of your championship contenders just didn't really have the nights they would have wanted and finished in some cases outside of that top 20 and down near those bottom 40 drivers?
Yeah, that's how it is now, Randy. We're not really racing everybody anymore. We're just racing these playoff drivers, and sometimes your decisions actually kind of change based off of how your playoff or competitors are doing. And yeah, they had bad nights. A lot of them did, and I'm probably going to run Indy a little bit differently, knowing that I'm kind of safe on points if I have a good finish. So I'm more liable to go for that top 5 instead of trying to go for a win. So, yeah, I feel horrible for my teammate Bobby, though. He was going to get another great top 5 as well. We were running pretty close together the whole night, and he ended up on the even worse end than I was off of that yellow. So 25th or something, wherever he finished, 21st. And I just gotta pray that I'm not on that end of it at Indy or Charlotte coming up.
Well, Keegan, before we let you go, that number 62 G2 Esports car has been strong all season, and while definitely the finishing of the races has not been where you would have liked, you've definitely been running during, before the bad luck ended up your way, running in the parts of the order that you would have wanted to be, so you're still looking strong regardless. But before we let you go, who gets it done for that number 62 G2 Esports car?
Yeah, I can't let this top 5 get me down, man. It's totally fine. I'm happy with this result. Got to thank Chris Shearer, Bobby Zilinski. So much work on the setup this week. We worked on it the whole week. There's only 1 week between these 2 races, so it was crunch time for us. Thanks to Martin Kroenke, who was my spotter this week, Mitchell was out of country, so he had to get replaced
Heading
by
to Martin's country, in fact.
Yeah, exactly. I am too, actually. So we're all going to meet up, going to Sim Expo in a couple days here. And got to thank VRS, Virtual Racing School, for being on the hood. G2 Esports, thank you so much for the support. Really love having these teams in the series. I'm glad to get another interview, another top 5 finish for my supporters this week. And thanks to everybody else for the help. I'm sure I forgot somebody.
So there he was. Keegan Leahy rounds out your top 5 here tonight, and he will roll into Indianapolis second in the points as things continue to kick off and keep rolling in this championship. Evan, back over to you.
Well, let's talk points, because we are one race through the 3-race opening round of these 2019 playoffs. And, well, as we mentioned, as this race started to wear down, a lot of our playoff drivers had a lot of big issues late. So Zach Novak going to come out of this one as your championship points leader. He has a healthy margin of some 24 points back to the next closest, or I guess I should say to the cut line, which is Garrett Lowe. But Novak is first, Keegan Leahy second, Michael Conti third, Ryan Luza fourth. Those are the big names because they are good for now. And Leahy mentioned, Randy, that he feels good on the points because, again, with a non-playoff driver winning tonight, it would be at minimum 2 spots on points. Moving on, Leahy second in the points. Good position headed into Indianapolis. But then the flip side, Garrett Lowe, first car on the outside looking in. He'll leave tonight 5th in the points, a mere 2 behind Ryan Luza, who had a very rough end to this race. Then you trickle down. Bobby Zalenski, only 3 points below the cut line. 9 below the cut for both Jimmy Mullis and Blake Reynolds in 7th and 8th position. So we do see the double digits up to 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. 4th on back, a lot closer. Even Conti there, 3rd, not that far ahead. A lot of cars still close and a long way to go.
That's really the big thing, is that the way this format really works out once we get into this playoff format, things are still tight. Only about 31 points separate those top 8 drivers. And, of course, you got to remember, this is a win-and-you're-in format through these next 3 races. No one wins here, but Indianapolis, a potential wild card race. First time we see this this package going to the 2.5-mile Brickyard in Indianapolis, so it's really anyone's game. And of course the road course, the Roval at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, coming out to cap off the playoff sequence before we head to Homestead and decide a champion. And there's really a few really good road racers in this top 8. You have Michael Conti up in there. You also have, of course, Bobby Zilinski in that mix as well. And I know Keegan Leahy's pretty good on the road courses also. So that road course is going to be a wild card, and maybe one of these drivers that had a bad night, you think, the likes of Bobby Zilinski down there currently in 6th, a couple others as well. If they can pull off a miracle at Charlotte, that's going to put them into Homestead, and even if they find themselves 7th or 8th in the points and in the running order.
And of course, there are question marks, Tim, surrounding that Charlotte Roval, but at the end of the day, it's still pretty much a road course race, and you have to have confidence in your speed. But man, even if I feel very confident there, I do not want to put it off until that last week, especially if I'm below the cut line and I need a win. Not a position I want to be in. So it all falls on Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 2 weeks' time, we head to the Brickyard, and a common theme all year has been talking about just how different these races are going to be with this package on these racetracks. Add Indianapolis to the list, certainly, as we go racing there on the 10th of September.
Yeah, I think Zach Novak kind of hit the nail on the head. We're going to see some restarts that are probably going to be a little more unpredictable. And Randy mentioned the word wild card when it comes to that Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I think that's what it's going to be compared to what we're going to see at the Roval. The Roval is a road course at the end of the day. You kind of control your own destiny there. You kind of know what you have, albeit the Roval is a tight little road course to get around. Those road course guys are still going to be where they are, and we saw some of that strength come out at Sonoma. But I think if there's a wild card in these 3, obviously Darlington tonight shook up the points a little bit for those playoff contenders. Indianapolis, I think you really have to be up on the wheel. And there's one thing that Zach Novak said in his interview that's going to stick with me for the next couple of weeks, is that confidence that he had, Evan, after that Great run here tonight. Momentum goes a long way, and confidence goes a long way. And I think Zach Novak displayed both of those here leading in to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Keegan Leahy looks good on points, but we saw last year where the wheels kind of came off the track and everything kind of derailed for that 62 team last year. So nothing is safe right now. Let's just put it that way. Yes, you have that wild card per se coming up. You also have the Roval, but nothing is for certain in this series. Can't wait for the next round to see how this all plays out at the Brickyard in Indianapolis.
Yeah, absolutely. Tonight could not help but feel consequential, but we're only a third of the way through this open round. More is going to happen over the course of the next 2 weeks than what happened tonight, and we certainly hope that you're with us for these all the way through this 2019 campaign. That being said, round number 15 falls into our rearview mirror, and that's it for us tonight from Darlington. Still plenty of eNASCAR action coming up, and as we mentioned, this Thursday, iRacing returns to NBCSN for another iteration of the iRacing eNASCAR All-Star Race. You can catch that one live at 5 o'clock Eastern on NBCSN. And then, of course, later on that evening, back here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network, our coverage of the eNASCAR Ignite Series powered by iRacing continues. That one is at 8 o'clock Eastern start and can be streamed online as always. For information on all of these series and more, I encourage you to log on to eNASCAR.com for more information. Until next time, though, on behalf of our entire team behind the scenes, for our director, Cisco Scaramuza, for Alex Horde on the cameras, the broadcast graphics team, Andy Werder and Simon Grossman, and for your broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, and Randy Jennett, want to thank you for tuning in as we step aside and return in 2 weeks' time. That one, Tuesday, September the 10th. For the second race of the playoffs from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series playoffs going to be found right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Darlington, where Ashton Crowder's a first-time winner.